officers and went up and guided. This really demonstrates the combat capability and capacity of our Army air defenders. Simply stated, they absolutely crushed it. If you'd flip this over, thanks. Let me next move to a walkthrough of the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapon and share a little bit about the planners who did this and their work on the weapon. First, let me set the stage for you. There's an organization in the U.S. called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA. DTRA does a lot of things for our nation, but DTRA is the world's leading expert on deeply buried underground targets. In 2009, a Defense Threat Reduction Agency officer was brought into a vault at an undisclosed location and briefed on something going on in Iran. For security purposes, I'm not going to share his name. He was shown some photos and some highly classified intelligence of what looked like a major construction project in the mountains of Iran. He was tasked to study this facility, work with the intelligence community to understand it, and he was soon joined by an additional teammate. For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordow, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose. They weren't able to discuss this with their family, their wives, their kids, their friends, but they just kept grinding it out. And along the way, they realized we did not have a weapon that could adequately strike and kill this target. So they began a journey to work with industry and other tacticians to develop the GBU-57. They tested it over and over again, tried different options, tried more after that. They accomplished hundreds of test shots and dropped many full-scale weapons against extremely realistic targets for a single purpose: kill this target at the time and place of our nation's choosing. And then, on a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of spending time with these two Defense Threat Reduction Agency officers who've given so much. One of them said, quote, "I can't even get my head around this. My heart is so filled with the pride of being a part of this team. I am so honored to be a part of this." To you both, thank you, and thank you to your families. Operation Midnight Hammer was the culmination of those 15 years of incredible work. The air crews, the tanker crews, the weapons crews that built the weapons, the load crews that loaded it. Before I run through this video today, I want to talk a little bit about weaponeering and what goes into an attack. Weaponeering is the science of evaluating a target. I mentioned all of those factors before that these two DTRA officers had thought about. Ultimately, weaponeering is determining the right weapon and fuse combination to achieve the desired effects and maximum destruction against a target. In the case of Fordow, the DTRA team understood with a high degree of...
Okay. I'm going to continue to keep my eyes peeled on this, but... Wow. If they do, I'll keep the screen up, and if they do go to questions and answers, I'll be sure to check in. I want to point something out That's plainly. Good morning, brother. That's plainly obvious to me. Anybody who's paying attention. Discredit the journalism. Discredit your own intelligence agency, and instead prop up the IDF, Mossad, and Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Because you heard it. You heard it. And then they attempt to spin the words, say, we'll call whatever you want. You guys are the ones that called it obliterated. You guys are the ones that called it destroyed and decimated and the end of their program. It wasn't anybody but you. Now, again, if you want to criticize language, then you perhaps should have waited until the preliminary assessment came out. Because in the preliminary assessment, it said the damage was not, as from what we've seen so far, the preliminary assessment was that it was not decimated. It was not obliterated. It was not destroyed. Now, I guarantee you what's going to happen, because we're going to have TJ and we're going to have Just 8 in the chat today, and they're going to be listening and say, well, there you go. See, they cited all those sources. Yeah, I'm so glad we went through our exercise yesterday. So here's a little test, friends. If you tuned in yesterday, and you can see the replay on my YouTube channel. We did a little quiz at the end about what is misinformation, what is disinformation, what's propaganda. So listening to Pete Hegseth, would you say that was misinformation, disinformation, or propaganda? I would say it's a combination of disinformation and propaganda. Remember, the misinformation is when you're not sure. Or you believe something to be true, and then you spread that without intent. This was disinformation and propaganda. Thoughts, brother, from what you just listened to? I'm not sure if you heard the whole thing. That was crazy.
Outside of throwing up in my mouth and believing that general was displaying behavior unbecoming of an officer while reading propaganda that he didn't write, sure.
Hang on 1 second, Obi. So Just 8. Libs only have one small source. Pete gave multiple sources. Just 8. I'm asking you to think critically. What were the sources that he gave? He gave his CIA director. He gave his director of NIH, which is Tulsi Gabbard. He gave the Israeli Defense Ministry. He gave Iran, but they said not obliterated. They said significant damage. So again, I ask you, Just 8, since you're in here, did you listen? So should we not trust the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the intelligence arm of the Department of Defense? We only hire the best. Information comes from CENTCOM. So yes, he gave sources, but he gave sources to support what they do. So can we trust Israel is the question. Sorry, Uli, go ahead.
Okay, I need to say this. This is really fucking important. If you serve in uniform, like many of us did, well, not really many of us, it's less than 2% of the total population of the United States at any one given time. You're not a fucking hero for doing your job. Stop. Stop this fucking hero worship, right? These men and women are trained to do the very things they do. That is not heroic in any way, shape, or form. And it has to stop. This propaganda that they went to bed. It's like a recruitment
video.
Right. That they went to bed dreaming of this. Let me tell you something. Okay. I will speak for cis men in the military between the ages of 19 and 25. When we go to bed at night, we're not fucking thinking about our job. Are you fucking insane? Really? No. This was a bunch of lies strung together, most likely by Stephen Miller. I don't think Hegseth has the chops to write like this, right? They brought in a whole bunch of people to spin this, right? Again, the military is a volunteer military. Joining does not make you a hero. Performing your functions as trained does not make you a hero. There are a few awards that are given to actual heroes, right? There's obviously the Medal of Honor, which is the highest award that someone can earn either after they've unalived or while they're still alive.
By the way,
There's
real quick, Obi, by the way, Dan Kane is now playing video from tests of the MOP, the bunker busters. He's showing a video about how they burrow into the ground and the damage that they cause. Again, this is an attempt to support. You could even hear Dan Kane. He's like not fully on board with the messages that came out in advance, but that's what they're doing. They're just showing a video of how it just goes into the ground and explodes and say, well, then there's nothing can stand up to this. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure people know that.
Yeah, sometimes you got to stand and salute. I get that, right?
Yep.
Here's what we know. We don't really know anything. We know what Pete Hegseth's bias filter is relaying to us out of his mouth. Until they declassify and have a briefing with actual evidence, those sources aren't sources. They're anecdotal. I could mention a whole bunch of names of people and claim something. There is currently zero evidence that it has been destroyed, eradicated, gone forever. Obliterated.
Yeah. Right.
$10 says, because Iran has done this before, we know this for a fact, they will move the centrifuges to another location.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we know they've done that is because the international inspectors caught them doing that. So
spy satellites. Yep.
Right. So to the people listening, especially MAGA, if you really think that I ran so far away, I just ran. Sorry, 80s reference, bad. Is ill-equipped to anticipate what's going on or to not think strategically, I don't think there's any hope for you, right? And to those who grew up in the 9/11 era thinking everyone that wears a uniform is a hero, that's not true. And it diminishes the actual hero who aren't with us anymore that did unbelievable acts of bravery, heroic things in the name of saving brothers and sisters. Those are heroes. Flying at 50,000 feet doing your job is not heroic. I'm sorry. That's what they get trained to do. That's what they get paid to do. I could argue.
Let's see if there's any question and answers here. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Away as always. I mean, even in just.
No, Hegseth now has to grab a little laser pointer and show pictures of stuff. So, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and by the way, surface photos are not evidence that the centrifuges were destroyed.
Listen,
the only way you're going to.
I want first munition took the.
I want to make something very clear. All I'm trying to do, and I know what Obi's trying to do, and Olive's trying to do, and for those of you who are in opposition or triggered by this, all we are trying to do is come up with the truth. It's not about if this mission proved successful and the Iranian nuclear program was obliterated and it was set back for years, then we'd like to know that. The problem is the only sources that Pete Hegseth cited would be people who would love to jump on the same propaganda disinformation bandwagon. When you cite Israeli intelligence, what do you think they're going to say? What do you think they're going to say? When you cite your own CIA director, what do you think they're going to say? When you cite your own director of national intelligence, what do you think they're going to say? We just want the fucking truth. That's all we want. All we want. Again, like I said yesterday, we go back to the original press conference that Keg's Breath and Dan Kane had on Sunday. And they said, thank you. Look at that. It's cool. Thank you. They said, when we have the battle damage assessment, the BDA, we will release it. Now, the BDA became available, preliminary, as they described. CENTCOM, along with the intelligence arm of the Pentagon, had this information, and someone leaked it. Now they can accuse whoever the fuck they want of.
You also said
here we go.
BDA is still pending. and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there at
Exactly.
the facility. That was just over 3 days ago. So what has changed? Would you use the term obliterated as well?
Sure, like I said, we don't do BDA. I'll refer that to the intelligence community. And,
You're talking with them. I mean, what changed in the past 3 days that make you so,
sir, I think I said,
I mean, I think I explained what changed. There was a great deal of irresponsible reporting.
There it is.
Based on leaks, preliminary information in low confidence. Again,
there
when
it is.
Someone leaks something, they do it with an agenda. And when you leak a portion of an intelligence assessment, but just a little portion that makes it seem like maybe the strike wasn't effective, then you start a news cycle, whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. You start a news cycle that starts to call into question the ethics. No, that's why.
Fucking told you.
So you bring the chairman here, who's not involved in politics. He doesn't do politics. That's
this
my
isn't
lane
about
to
politics.
understand and translate and talk about those types of things. So I can use the word obliterated. He could use defeat, destroyed, assess, all of those things. But ultimately, we're here to clarify what these weapons are capable of, which anyone with, 2 eyes, some ears, and a brain can recognize that kind of firepower with that specificity at that location and others is going to have a devastating effect. So we all recognize there will be days and weeks ahead. That's why yesterday I said, if you want to know what's going on at Fordo, you better go there and get a big shovel, because no one's under there right now. No one's under there able to assess, and everyone's using reflections.
Then why did you say obliterated and decimated?
The Iranians, the IAEA, the UN, to a man and to a woman who recognize the capability of this weapon system, are acknowledging how destructive it's been. So that's what's changed.
So it put a hole in the ground. It doesn't mean it destroyed it.
See, this is
hang on
a point. This is how difficult it is to actually manage. You just watched a video of what this weapon is capable of. That's where we find our confidence, is in the skill of men and women and the capability of the systems they employed.
Wow. And
the recognition so far and the reflections that it was a highly successful mission.
Sure, I think you could, I'd say go out, the IC should be able to help you answer that question. They look at a variety, as the Secretary has alluded to, we look at a variety of things. I don't do that, they do. All different sources of intel, which I'd refer you to them to get clarity on the end.
So again, I go back to the IC, whether it's Director Radcliffe or ODNI Gabbard. I read the statements at the beginning. They're the ones,
your cabinet members,
the intelligence.
Yeah,
and
sure,
saying
of course.
Nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over a number of years. Facilities were destroyed.
Wow, man.
What do we got right here?
So you cited a body of credible intelligence to suggest that the damage at Fordo and other places. What is that referring to, and when can we see it?
I was reading from the CIA director's statement, which came out last night. CIA, again, they do the BDA, they do the assessment. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates, it also goes on to say, new intelligence from historically reliable and accurate sources and methods. Now, you can imagine the CIA director is going to be very careful about how he articulates things of that sensitivity. Classified, secret, top secret, compartmentalized. He's going to know things that you're not going to know, that the press isn't going to know. And he's reflecting that the sources he's seeing are highly credible. They've given credible intelligence. They or those processes have given credible intelligence in the past. And that's what he's basing it on.
Do you think we need to see that?
Do you have a top secret clearance, sir?
Eventually, the American public wants to see it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, you.
I wanted to ask briefly.
Neither did your wife, Pete, by the way.
So Mike Glenn with the Washington Times.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anybody who's ever read a Battalion S2 report after a fight knows that it's usually, the initial report is usually wrong, sometimes grossly so. Is what happened in this incident caused y'all to sort of rethink the intelligence process or the dissemination, or do you think it's just a matter, I mean, if the process itself doesn't require any more adjustment?
Well, I can tell you what the chairman told me in the Situation Room and reminded us all, which is alongside what you just said, sir, is that the first reports are almost always wrong. They're almost always incomplete, right? Anything, whether it's a squad level operation or a strategic level operation, the initial reflections you get are coming at you at a high rate of speed from a lot of different sources. So your job is to step back and assess them. And that's why we're urging caution about premising entire stories on biased leaks to biased publications trying to make something look bad. How about we take a beat, recognize first the success
Biased
of
leaks?
our warriors, hold them up, tell their story,
Holy
celebrate
fuck.
that, wave an American flag, be proud of what we accomplished. And in the meantime,
Wave
I can
the
assure
flag.
you, the chairman and his staff, the intelligence community, our staff and others are doing all the assessments necessary to make sure that mission was successful. Yes, right there.
Damn.
He hasn't answered one question
Iran
directly
has
yet.
recognized that their nuclear program was indeed severely damaged, but they also said that the U.S. strikes only strengthened their ability and their determination to complete their nuclear program. How do you respond to that, sir? Is that a provocation from Iran?
Well, I would say Iran's going to have to say a lot of things right now in order to bolster their image, especially internally. You know, in the media, there's a lot of things they'll say for domestic consumption. But we're watching very closely what they do. Wow. Again, that's the intel community. Our job as the chairman, I mean, the chairman laid it out so beautifully. Our job is to be prepared. And how proud are you? How proud am I? I didn't know the full story of those men and women 15 years ago who've been pointing at that target. That makes me proud to be an American. That's an awesome story. I hope we can tell more aspects of that in an unclassified way in the future. That's a great thing to know. Our job is to be prepared when the commander-in-chief calls based on those assessments. So, of course, our IC, the Intelligence Committee, will keep watching what Iran does and pay attention to that. But the president has created the contours, the opportunity for a deal, for peace, in something that the world said was intractable, that wasn't possible. And we got that peace, that ceasefire, that option, because of strength, because of his willingness to use American military might that no one else on the planet can do with the kind of planners and operators that the chairman just laid out. Yes, sir. Right there. Yep.
Yes, sir. Just a quick question. There's public imagery available saying that highly enriched uranium was moved out of Fordo before the strikes. Is that accurate? Have you seen that? And Mr. Chairman, a question for you. Have you been pressured to change your assessment or give a more rosy intelligence assessment to us by any political factors, whether it's the president or the secretary? And if you were, would you do that?
Yeah, well, that one's easy. No, no, I have not, and no, I would not. My job as the chairman is to offer a range of options to the president and the National Command Authority to deliver the risks associated with each of those, and then take the orders of the National Command Authority and go execute them. I've never been pressured by the president or the secretary to do anything other than tell them exactly what I'm thinking, and that's exactly what I've done.
There's nothing that I've seen that suggests that we didn't hit exactly what we wanted to hit in those locations.
Of course you'd say that.
It's about highly enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo Mountain, or some of it? Because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance. Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally what the president says. I'm familiar.
Ventilation shafts on Saturday night. And in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So
Absolutely.
We're looking at all aspects of intelligence.
Didn't answer the question, though.
Of what was where.
Yeah.
Acknowledge
Because
the
he knows
female
they
pilots
moved
that
it.
also participated in this mission. The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
That's right. That's
So when I
right.
say something like our boys and bombers. See, this is the kind of thing the press does, right?
No, that's what you
Of course,
did.
The chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot.
You
That's
didn't, though.
Fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero.
You
I
didn't.
want more female bomber pilots.
You
I
didn't
hope
do that.
The men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers.
Boys and bombers.
Common phrase.
How about men and
I'll keep
women?
saying things
You
like that.
piece of shit.
Whether they're men or women, very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession
Flight deck.
with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. And we don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games. Yes,
You
right
know
there.
for certain that the uranium was removed from the facility before the B-2 struck.
So I'm not aware of any intelligence that I've reviewed that says things were not where they were supposed to be, moved or otherwise.
You didn't see the
Kelly Meyer,
intelligence?
News Nation, and just off the top, I want to say we're grateful for the service of these pilots and everybody that serves. I wanted to ask you, the CIA statement said, when possible, they will provide updates and information to the public for transparency, and I believe that's what we're looking for here. Do you commit to share the Defense Intelligence Agency report when it is ready, so the American people can understand more about the intelligence assessment?
Well, actually, the report that was discussed, this preliminary report, was what's called a restrike report. So it comes to us to give us an assessment whether a target would need to be restruck, right? That's the reason why. So it's based on internal feedback loop that we're supposed to have access to. Unfortunately, someone took advantage of that. But whatever is supposed to be made public will be, but whatever has to stay sensitive.
Sir, can I jump in? You know, one of the things that I'm trying to do through this journey that we're on together, of course, transparency, but also the requirement to really protect these capabilities. I guess the time's up. So there's a balance in there, right? We do need to preserve options should the nation and the joint force be tasked to go do something again. So I'm confident we'll find the middle ground, but there are some things that if asked, I want to not release related.
So we're going to leave it right there. I want to thank the heroism of our men and women
Holy shit.
in the military. What they accomplished is truly historic, setting back the Iranian nuclear program untold number of years. It was a devastating attack. We appreciate you covering it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And they're going to walk.
Untold means zero, by the way.
Wow. Okay, so everybody, let's. Good morning, Olive. Sorry, thank you for waiting. I want everybody to be objective. I'm gonna ask everybody. I want everybody to try to put your biases aside for just a moment. You know, that is our goal here every single day, to try to approach this with some logical consistency, some objectivity, and to not be hypocritical. That is all I'm asking. Now, how can we listen to that press conference? And I know that Just Eight's in here, and TJ will show up, and the Pauls of the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I am asking you is, you have the battle damage assessment that Pete Hegseth promised that we would get in that initial press conference. Now that it became available, whether it was having it be leaked is something entirely separate. This is now multiple things are true here. You've got an issue within the Pentagon about securing information. You're responsible for it. You've leaked it. You've shared signal chats. You're on the hook. The only reason that Pete Hegseth still has his job is because his nose is so far up Trump's ass that Trump loves it. It tickles his tonsils. That's the only reason he still has a job. So we get the BDA, we get the battle damage assessment. And now that they're angry because even in their own words, even in that fucking press conference, they say, well, you know, we got to make sure we have all the information. So this was inadvertently leaked. But you guys are the ones that went out and said the entire nuclear program in Iran was decimated, obliterated, devastated. Even in the preliminary report, it describes it as a preliminary report. Initial estimates are that the Iranian nuclear program is only set back a few months. So it is fucking wild that they're going to sit there publicly and cite the Israeli government and Israeli intelligence. What do you think the Israeli intelligence is going to say? They've got to justify this to their people. They're going to say it's a wild success and the threat is over. Your own CIA director, we're supposed to take them as impartial? Tulsi Gabbard, you believe Tulsi now, but you didn't before? Again, ask yourself, just be objective for 5 minutes and think that through. What we want to do here, which is what we try to do every single day, is what is the fucking truth, or as much as we can find. And what I learned from that press conference is they are in massive spin, because they know they're fucking caught. And that some great questions from the journalists that are in the room saying, okay, well, listen, you guys are the ones that said devastated. Maybe you should have waited before you made those statements. And then if you'll notice, their answer to that question was not to address what they said. Their answer to that question was to say, look at the damage that these weapons can cause. Look at the damage that these weapons and the pilots could cause specifically. That was wild. That was just wild. Everybody, thank you for hanging in there on that. Obi, Olive, thoughts?
Let's let Olive go first. I've already been talking up here.
I just think it's really funny, you know, Pete's admitting the fact that he doesn't read what he's been told to read, and maybe his wife will help him because, you know, he likes to make sure she has security clearance. If anything, this is just giving me a foresight on more propaganda and just showing me more and more that they're trying everything they can do to make all those service members, specifically the men, look better than what they actually need to be. And I feel like it's more of a, I even said it a little bit ago, I feel like they're just trying to make it sound so much more cooler than it actually is, because numbers have always been down for recruitment. And they're just trying to make it sound better so, you know, people aren't as scared. Like, I'm not going to join because of the possibility of WW3 kind of deal, you know? But
right.
Massive propaganda. That's all I see. Feel like I woke up in 2003 and I wasn't 2 anymore.
Cass, are you there? I see that you had requested. Looks like you might be timing out, friend. Please feel free to request again. Everybody take this opportunity just to remind folks that we are crowdfunded. If you want to support the channel, you know how to do that. And Gregory, if you're listening, the change we made worked inside baseball. Anywho, don't forget there's a gifting goal today, and we are in Community Fest. If you like what we do here, please vote. And then the gifts you give today are valued at a little bit more, I think, but do the thing. And we still need 5 subscribers. So we can get to 5 more subscribers today. We will do a subscriber only event tomorrow, meaning if you are an active subscriber, either here or over at FactsStillMatter.site, you'll be entered to win our contest. We'll spin the wheel. If we pull your name, you get your choice of a merch item. So please consider subscribing. Thank you. Obi, thoughts?
One thing that was really super important that I honed in on, Pete couldn't say that the pilot, that I'll just say was a woman for lack of anything else to say. Couldn't say warrior. Couldn't say fighter. Couldn't say hero, right? Couldn't say any of the propaganda bullshit that he says about men. And then reluctantly, he started to, but then snapped back into, and this is all propaganda from, what about Biden? And they let sex and gender get in the way. No. He is almost as stupid as Trump. He may be a little bit smarter, but all he's doing is making sure that Donald Trump's ego is stroked. That's what this was about. Neither one of them give 2 fucking shits about anyone serving in the military. They just don't, because the military is a means to the end for Christian nationalists.
Indeed.
Right? It's like, you know, all of this fake fucking propaganda at sporting events with the oversized flag and people in uniform. We're just fucking props.
That's right. I mean, No Fear asks the question. No Fear says, question, Steve, how will they ever know the full extent of damage unless Iran shows the proof? Okay, well, think about that then, right? So this is the problem we're in. And the timing is great. I'm glad we did our show yesterday on misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda, and how we navigate through that bullshit. Because what do you think? I mean, we already have statements from the Iranian government and the Ayatollah saying, you know, you didn't do shit. We're going to be back producing, you know, our nuclear weapons program. We'll be back and up and running again in just a couple of months. So this is the problem right now. I just, again, just listening to that press conference, it was by design. They had to do it. Now, I was always taught, like, when you work in radio or you work on TV and you make a mistake in something you say, you don't go back and revisit the mistake. You just move on. So they are the ones that are perpetuating this because they need this as a win. They've got to show their strength. They've got to swing their dick in front of their MAGA voters. They've got to prove to everybody how tough they are. And now, because just in the way that they're responding, again, the report came out, the preliminary report that they cited numerous times. The preliminary report said, again, they're so fucking stupid, even in the description of the preliminary report. Obviously, things change over time. And as we get more and more information, then why would you go out within 12 hours and say it was obliterated, decimated, the end of the program? That's the fucking point. That's what we're trying to get to. It's a combination of propaganda and disinformation.
Yep.
And then we've got people in here like Just 8 are going to run around saying, I heard that press conference and those bunker buster bombs can blow shit up. Of course those programs are done. That is a tactic.
And
you use the power of these you use the power of these particular weapons, and you show your little videos and you talk about how powerful they are, but that's so fucking out of context. It's irrelevant. Your own people have this data. Your own people released the report that you said was going to happen, and somebody leaked it. That's your problem, my guy. You want to blame the journalist? That's fine. You can blame the journalist, but you leaked it. Your department, your agency, the Department of Defense that you guys care so much about securing information. Meanwhile, Pete, you're sharing it with your fucking tanning bed operator, so you can miss me with your fucking nonsense. All we want is to get as close to the truth as we can possibly get. Sorry, Olive.
And I just think it's really funny, these people who say, no new wars and we don't want any kind of wars, when we were having conversations about everything occurring and the, service members being moved around constantly. Well, they knew what they signed up for. They knew what they were getting into type of deal. And it's really funny to me now. Like,
I know.
Hexon said it himself.
Good morning, Justin.
Just one second.
Hey.
Justin. Here's a question for everyone that's on the panel. What are they going to do when the IAEA calls Iran and says, hey, we saw what happened. We'd really like to come in, offer some assistance. Do you mind if we take a look? Because that's their job. What are they going to do when they release that report? Because that is going to happen. So I'm just curious as to what people think.
If Iran cooperates, I guess. Good morning, Justin. What's on your mind?
So all I have to say is discredit the media and weave your own. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, got you now. Yep, thanks.
Okay, cool. All I got to say is discredit the media and weave your own narrative doesn't mean give us your entire novel on a press conference stage. Yeah, let me off without a we because I want off this ride.
Okay, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. It's a really good point. So this was a statement. This was on True Social a while ago, and I'll read this. It's long, so I'm not going to use the voice. Two things. Yeah, for one, fake news. This is in all caps, and I literally Tiff and I are brain sharing. Couple of statements from the president. These came out this morning, one last night and one this morning in advance of the press conference. The first, fake news, this is in all caps. Fake news CNN is so disgusting and incompetent, some of the dumbest anchors in the business. That was at 7:10 p.m. last night. This one at 5:07 a.m. this morning. Rumor is that the failing New York Times and fake news CNN will be firing the reporters who made up the fake stories on the Iran nuclear sites because they got it so wrong. Let's see what happens. Fake news, fake with a capital F, and then fake again in all caps. CNN has come out and defended the journalist, saying, we defend her. We'll support what she says. And then finally, news conference on now. Watch it. This was the statement last night. Breaking news in all caps from the president. I was shocked to hear that the state of Israel, which has just had one of its greatest moments in history and is strongly led by Bibi Netanyahu, is continuing its ridiculous witch hunt against the Great War. Against their great wartime prime minister, Bibi Netanyahu. And Bibi Netanyahu is continuing its ridiculous witch hunt against their great wartime prime minister. Bibi and I just went through hell together. Really? Really? Oh, okay. Fighting a very tough and brilliant longtime enemy of Israel, Iran, and Bibi could not have been better, sharper, or stronger in his love, in all caps, for the incredible Holy Land. Anybody else would have suffered losses, embarrassment, and chaos. Bibi Netanyahu was a warrior, in all caps, like perhaps no other warrior in the history of Israel. And the result was something that nobody thought was possible. A complete elimination of potentially one of the biggest and most powerful, a complete elimination of potentially one of the biggest and most powerful nuclear weapons anywhere in the world. And it was going to happen soon, in all caps. We were fighting literally for the survival of Israel, and there's nobody in Israel's history that fought harder or more competently than Bibi Netanyahu. Despite all of this, I just learned that Bibi has been summoned to court on Monday for the continuation of this long-running. He has been going through this horror show since May of 2020, unheard of. This is the first time a sitting Israeli prime minister has ever been on trial. This long-running, politically motivated case concerning cigars, a Bugs Bunny doll, and numerous other unfair charges in order to do him great harm. Such a, all caps, witch hunt for a man who's given so much is unthinkable to me. Wow, he deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu's trial should be, all caps, canceled immediately, or a pardon given to a great hero who has done so much for the state. Perhaps there is no one that I know who could have worked in better harmony with the President of the United States, me, in all caps, than Bibi Netanyahu. It was the United States of America that saved Israel, and now it is going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi. All quotes. This travesty of justice cannot be allowed. Wow.
I just posted a article from AP. Part of it, UN Watchdog confirms there's damage done to the sites. The head of the UN nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Director, Rafael Grossi, reiterated on Thursday that the damage done by Israeli and U.S. strikes at the Iranian nuclear facilities is very, very, very considerable. I think annihilated is too much, but it has suffered enormous damage. So the idea of annihilated and absolutely defeated,
obliterated, decimated,
is not accurate. That's not accurate at all. There's some other things in this article as well. I just, again.
Somebody just said that. Again, who was that? That was Ann. Thank you, Ann. So much for America First, right?
Yeah,
right?
At this
are we
point,
not? Yeah, just like, are we not supposed to be? Isn't the whole mantra that we shouldn't be spending any more money doing anything with any nation abroad? But it's okay to support a war criminal in Bibi Netanyahu? Again, we're trying to get to the truth here, okay? My God, this is crazy.
There is zero evidence that Iran has a nuclear weapons program. Zero.
Agreed.
It's been talked about for a couple of decades.
Just because they were enriching uranium does not mean they were at weapons grade.
Right.
What I think, again, there are two things can be true, right? Two things can be true. Iran, global intelligence confirms, is a state sponsor of T. We know that. There's no 100%. Denying that. There is no denying that. No one's here to debate it. There's no denying it. There's no denying that. And according to the same intelligence agencies, the ones that are reporting on the fact that they support T groups have also stated that they're not close to the production of a nuclear weapon. So here we are in this. You want to believe someone when they tell you that Iran is a sponsor of state terror, a state sponsor of terror, but you don't believe the same groups that say they weren't close to a nuke.
Right.
The only person that you're going to believe is the fucking war criminal, Bibi Netanyahu. One war criminal talking to another. Donald Trump talking to Bibi Netanyahu.
Well, also, they also have in common white collar crimes. And if you don't want someone to go through their country's judicial system, perhaps don't crime would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. Don't crime.
Right? I mean, there's something you can do, everyone. If you're wondering what you can do that's super easy, don't crime.
Yeah, don't crime. Good morning, Rob. How are you today?
Hello, good morning.
Rob? Hi.
Yes.
What's on your
mind?
mind?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I wanted to say that, since we're having this discussion regarding Iran.
Where'd you go?
Is rumored to have 40 to 100 nuclear weapons, and they will not. Now, this is something that is a fact. Like, that's a rumor, right? But the fact is that they won't allow weapons inspectors in their country to determine whether they have them or not. That is something that goes against all weapons proliferation treaties in the world. India has allowed it. Pakistan has allowed it. Russia, China, every country that has these weapons has allowed it. Even the ones that they might have it. Iran had the nuclear deal with under Obama, and weapons inspectors were allowed to inspect what they were doing. When Trump came in and got rid of that deal because he didn't like Obama's name on it, then we can't verify, which works in their favor. It works in Israel's favor because now they could just say that we know, we have intelligence that they do have it, and then it gives them the excuse to bomb the hell out of them. And that is an abuse, and the world court knows this.
Agreed. You're absolutely right. There's four countries that have not signed the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. Those four countries are India, Pakistan, for obvious reasons, because they despise each other and there's kind of constant gamesmanship. South Sudan, because they're a relatively new country forming, and the fourth is Israel. And the world knows that they have a nuclear weapons program. The world knows that. You can tell based on satellite imagery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're the only country, to your point, of those groups that are not allowing inspectors to come in. So who's the threat is the question. Not the Israeli people. Clear distinction here. The government. Okay? Thanks for being here today, Rob. I appreciate you. All right. Let's see. I think I see Manny had requested. He did at some point, but I'll bring up somebody else. And then I want to get to I want to make sure that we have some positive news to share today, because today is a big anniversary that we should be celebrating. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. That was a wild presser. Man, oh man. I've seen a lot of press conferences in my day, and that one was something. Holy shit. Shells, are you there?
I can't wait to see some transcripts of that.
I'm sure there'll be clips. So, yeah. Man, oh man, that was nuts. Madame, how are you this morning?
What?
Hello. Did you not want to request? Madame? Madame? The progressive in your pocket is talking to you. Okay, I guess not. All right, I guess.
Hey now.
Yeah, let's just land the plane here specifically. Our mission every single day around here, I mean, the name of our channel is pertinent because facts should matter, and they still do. And all we are trying to do is address what we just witnessed based on the words used by not only the Secretary of Defense, but the President of the United States, coming out and making these claims. So as a tactic in authoritarian regimes, when they take over the populace, is to discredit journalists. Never mind that they are the ones that leaned in initially, they being the administration. They're the ones that used the words decimated, obliterated, destroyed, game over. They themselves acknowledged that there was a BDA. They themselves acknowledged that information was preliminary. So if it was preliminary, why did you say what you said? It's crazy. Okay, real quick. Not real quick, but I want to make sure that we are addressing something, because this is a day that we should all, people who care about human rights should celebrate. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the Obergefell decision. And in a day and age where we do not celebrate the good enough, I want to remind people of the history of the Obergefell decision, and also just speak of it in terms of what is currently under threat based on laws that are being passed in certain states. So the Obergefell-Hodges decision is a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. This is sort of the breakdown. Jim Obergefell, an Ohio resident, was the lead plaintiff. Obergefell legally married his terminally ill partner, John Arthur, in Maryland. When Arthur died, Ohio refused to recognize their marriage on the death certificate. Obergefell sued the state, arguing this denial violated the equal protection and due process clauses of the 14th Amendment. The case was one of several consolidated from multiple states, Ohio, Michigan, Tennessee, and Kentucky, where same-sex couples challenged the state bans on marriage recognition or licensing. Lower federal courts had issued conflicting rulings, setting the stage for the Supreme Court to resolve the issue. On June 26, 2015, 10 years ago today, the decision was made 5-4 in favor of Obergefell. The majority opinion written by Justice Anthony Kennedy, joined by Justices Ginsburg, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan. Due process clause of the 14th Amendment protects the fundamental right to marry. Equal protection clause requires that same-sex couples have equal access to the same right. Justice Kennedy wrote, "The Constitution promises liberty to all to define and express their identity." Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Scalia and Justice Alito, on Thomas as well, were in dissent. They argued the court overstepped, overriding states' rights and democratic process. Same-sex marriage became legal in all 50 states as a result. States were required to issue marriage licenses and recognize same-sex marriages from other jurisdictions. It was seen as a major victory for LGBTQ+ IA rights, sparked backlash among some religious and conservative groups, became a central issue in subsequent political campaigns and court battles over religious liberty and LGBTQ+ discrimination. In 2022, Justice Clarence Thomas, in his concurring opinion in the Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, which overturned Roe, suggested that the court should also reconsider Obergefell, raising concerns that marriage equality could be at risk. In response, Congress passed the Respect for Marriage Act in 2022, which codified federal recognition of same-sex and interracial marriages. 2013, here's a timeline. 2013, U.S. versus Windsor struck down DOMA's federal definition of marriage as one man, one woman. 2014, Obergefell sues. 2015, SCOTUS rules Obergefell. And then 2022, Respect for Marriage Act passed to protect federal recognition and judicial uncertainty. Okay, there are currently some challenges. Well, specifically, it came from Clarence Thomas. I don't want to revisit that because we know how bad it is. Project 2025 and Christian Nationalist Legal Strategy. They claim the Heritage Foundation-led policy blueprint for a second Trump term proposes that reshaping the DOJ, judiciary, and administrative state to empower a culture war litigation. Groups like Alliance Defending Freedom and Liberty Counsel are actively defending state laws that grant broad religious exemptions to deny services to LGBTQ+ individuals, building cases to narrow Obergefell or undermine it through freedom of conscience arguments. So even though there was federal protections signed into law, the Project 2025 folks, the Christian nationalists, the religious bigots, are going after your rights. Again, there are gay conservatives. There are trans conservatives. There are lesbian conservatives. There are bi-curious. There are queer conservatives. They're coming for your rights too. Don't think you're immune. Supreme Court decisions on future cases. With a 6-3 conservative majority, the court has already sided with religious objectors in the 303 Creative versus Atlantis in 2023, allowing a business to refuse a same-sex wedding service, signaled openness and narrowing civil rights protections based on speech and religious grounds. Conservative legal groups are actively seeking plaintiffs to challenge Obergefell in strategic courts, meaning they will judge shop for this. The Respect for Marriage Act, again, partial protection, passed in 2022 in response to Dobbs, requires states to recognize legal same-sex marriages from other states, does not require states to issue new same-sex marriage licenses if Obergefell is overturned. Thus, it preserves federal recognition but doesn't enshrine the right to marry nationally. Now, there are trigger laws. If Obergefell ever to get overturned, 32 states still have dormant bans or constitutional amendments that would automatically reinstate same-sex marriage prohibitions if Obergefell was overturned. For example, in Ohio, Ohio recently passed a ballot referral offering voters a constitutional enshrinement of same-sex marriage, a move acknowledged a ruling that acknowledged the real risk. States like Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, and many others are passing record numbers of anti-LGBTQ bills in 2025, targeting transgender health, school curriculum, bathroom use, drag performances, etc. Map shows states that are high risk, and we've got that, and I'll put that in the Discord. I think there are 525 laws or suggestions or bills that are circulating through various state legislatures. Thank you, Olive. There you go. See, like I say, we have the greatest team on TikTok. Several states, including Texas, North Dakota, Utah, and Michigan, have passed broad religious refusal laws, allowing individuals or businesses to deny services to LGBTQ+ people, including same-sex couples. Anti-trans curriculum bans are spreading in southern and Midwestern states, restricting education on LGBTQ+ topics and transgender identities in K-12 schools. Even with more nationwide legalization, some county clerks in Texas, Alabama, and Kentucky continue to refuse up until today to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples invoking religious objectives. Same-sex marriage remains legal nationwide, but state-level threats are intensifying due to trigger laws, discriminatory legislation, and local resistance. Ongoing transgender policy attacks further threaten the broader LGBTQ+ community. Vigilance, legal defenses, and state-level protections like codifying marriage equality are essential to safeguard these hard-won rights. So take a moment and celebrate the fact that today, it's also my son's birthday today, to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Obergefell decision, granting protections for people who, because again, love who you love. That's kind of what we care about. And there are still attacks from the Christian evangelical right to take that right away. So keep that in mind as you are out there fighting, which then leads us to the topic that I wanted to kind of discuss today. Big picture, it's like, what are you for? Do you stand for human rights? It's more than just what are you fighting for. We oftentimes sit in these spaces and we talk about the things that we're against. Like we're against fascism. We're against billionaires becoming richer and richer and richer. But we also for lots of things. We're for human rights. We're for equality. We're for recognition of every community. We're for marginalized communities to be supported in our system. We're for the middle class. We're for the worker. We're for labor unions. We're for teachers. We're for educators. We're for healthcare. We're for public health professionals. Those are the things we're for. So today's a big day that we should be able to celebrate because it does mark a massive civil rights protections for our lesbian and gay brothers and sisters. So yeah, there you are. So happy Pride Month. Happy 10-year anniversary of Obergefell because it's a big deal. All right. Are you there? Good morning, Q. How are you today?
Oh, fine. You know me as Mark.
Hey, Mark. How's it going? I did not know your handle.
Thank you so much for being such a strong ally. Appreciate that. I won't take much of your time.
Thank you.
I'm on my backup because, I had a guest come on and use the F slur, and apparently that gets me off lives for a week. But I just wanted to thank you for celebrating this anniversary. That's the one thing in politics that I am so tired of. I mean, I became a Democrat when I turned 20. I was really excited to vote, because I felt like the Democrats were definitely on my side as far as it came to LGBTQ issues. They definitely seemed to be promoting that, and I've stuck with that. But after 20 plus years, it's getting old. We're still being used as punching bags to scare conservatives into voting conservative. And I'm just tired of it. I wish they could move on to something else. And the people you see on this app who are, LGBTQ Trump supporters, I just think they're people who are trying to assimilate to power, but they're never going to pick you. They're what we call pick me gays. They're never going to pick you.
Right.
You're never going to get it. You may be able to serve at their table, but they're never going to choose you to sit at their table. And I just wish they would understand that better. And
well said.
They're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, we speak about this in terms of why any marginalized group would support the conservative movement in America today, and I think you describe it. It's proximity to power, it's assimilation, it's a pick me, and as we know, that's just never going to happen. I mean, marginalized communities that support conservative politics, they are being used, and they are either unaware of it or they don't care. Has
Caitlyn Jenner been chosen for a cabinet seat? Or any other LGBTQ person who campaigned for Donald Trump or gave him money, they're not in the cabinet, right? It's pretty obvious, but I know, and I do. It's disappointing, but I do understand it when you spend a lot of your life feeling ostracized, and then you can get to belong to this group of power. Yeah, it's a different feeling, and it makes you feel like you're part of something, like you're part of a group. But Agreed. The LGBTQ community is still over here, and we will always love you and accept you, whereas this group will reject you and make laws against you as soon as they get the chance. So it's a pretty binary choice. But thank you for celebrating the anniversary of Obergefell. Yeah, it's very, very worrying. In fact, when that issue, when that order came down from the Supreme Court, I was so happy. And true story, I had to call my mother because I've been using the excuse that I wasn't married to her for a long time, that it wasn't legal, Mom. And damn it, now it's legal. I had to tell her the truth. But she was happy for me.
Right. Mark, I appreciate you always out there fighting and for always being a fan of the show. We appreciate you, friend. Have a good day out there.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. Take care. It's a really, this whole, I think back, I remember that decision. Just a quick story. I have a dear friend of mine that I've known since elementary school. And we used to throw rocks and go fishing together. We played football together all through high school. He came out to me, the summer between our junior and senior year of high school. And I remember the moment we were at this place we used to go, we used to sneak into the Ramada Ballroom in Southern Vermont and just on Friday nights and just go there to dance. We had a grand old time. It was super fun. And we were leaving one night and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm gay. I'm like, I know. It's not really a secret, buddy. What's the issue? I'm like, are you suddenly going to become an asshole? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. And we've been friends for a very long time. And I just sort of brushed that moment off. And this is not about me. I'm making a point here. I just sort of brushed that moment off, but it was a really important moment to him. And he spoke, he performed, he was the officiant at a commitment ceremony that I had in my last relationship. And he mentioned that moment. I'd kind of forgotten about it. And I just think that, when you are someone who is genuinely committed to defending the human rights of people, I look at that as an umbrella. Like I stand as an accomplice, never as an ally, as an accomplice in defending the human rights of other people as much as I can. Most of my, even I've done it in ways that I didn't even know. That was an example. Like I didn't even know how important that was to my friend, but it was to him, right? And that's what really matters the most. So here we are now. We will recognize Obergefell, or we'll call out anti-discrimination or discrimination laws that are being passed against the LGBTQ plus IA community, 595 nationwide. And we use that to say, if you guys on the conservative right care so much about a small government, but yet you epitomize what big government is because you want to get everybody's fucking bedroom. You want to know what's in somebody's pants. You want to know what's in somebody's nightside table. You want to know what they're watching. You don't care about your privacy being protected. So I'm hoping that as we continue to fight for the rights of others, shocker, because I'm so fucking radical. I'm so radical that I care about Olive having rights to her body, or that kids get to eat, or that we have clean water and clean air, or that teachers might get paid more, or we could invest in public education. I know, so fucking radical. But the more and more we have these conversations, the more we can call out the hypocrisy. You can't claim to be about small government if you want to be up in everybody's business. So, again, celebrate Obergefell because it was a big day, a good day in American history, a good day. All right. Either one of you have any thoughts on that or anything that you'd like to share?
Well, I find it interesting that in the dissent, Chief Justice Roberts mentioned states' rights.
Of course he did.
Now, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
To the conservative majority that just told the governor of California to go pound sand, where are our states' rights?
Exactly.
I have an idea. How about if we exercise our states' rights and not contribute $80 billion to the federal government?
Yeah, hold the money. By the way, I want to thank Jay. Thank you for your $20 donation on Cash App. Really appreciate you, friend. And also Heather, thank you for your $5 on Venmo. Appreciate you very much. We are crowd funded. You want to support the channel? It's a great way to do it. Thank you both. No, it's a great point, Obi. Right? I mean, I don't know the legal mechanism, but red states would not survive without the socialist communist haven that is California. It wouldn't survive without money from California or from New York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Illinois.
Can we just leave? Yeah, Illinois. Can we just leave people the fuck alone?
Well,
so,
that's my
okay,
point.
TJ, I understand the 16th Amendment. I know what taxes are, my guy. I'm just saying that for the states' rights, brother, the same community that supports states' rights would it then be California's state right to deny federal funding, to deny any taxes, to deny whatever? I mean, it's states' rights. Doesn't California then have the state right to impose whatever law they want on their citizenry? Because it's states' rights, right? And don't forget, the voters of California voted for sanctuary cities. They voted for that. They voted in support of that. So leave California the fuck alone.
Also,
seriously,
if the federal government is going to take money away from the state of California, as Trump has been threatening, that's fine. We will withhold that exact amount of money because we have to fund ourselves. We can no longer afford to fund federal programs. We need to make them states programs, so we're just going to fund them. Power couple alert! Power couple alert!
Did you both
Power
just
couple
say
alert!
Illinois, though?
Yeah,
I had to.
Okay.
Real quick, let me address something. So somebody's been commenting in my hat. So right after the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida came out, I am very fortunate to live near the home of The Alchemist, which is the brewer of Heady Topper. In fact, I'm friends with the people who founded it years ago. They immediately came out with a beer that said "Just Say Gay," and there may be someone that that you see every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till noon, silver hair, blue eyed, somebody you may know may have sent a case of said beer to Ron DeSantis's house. May have. I'm not saying, I cannot confirm or cannot deny. I'm just saying that may have happened when that beer came out. So I'm just throwing that out there. Anywho, that's where the hat comes from. Good morning, Manny. Manny?
Sorry, going through it.
That's okay. How you doing? Manny? Are you there?
Mega territory? I don't know.
I'm gonna drop you, bro. Then please request again when you got a better signal. Okay?
You might be in mega territory.
You might be. All right. So then I just want to recap a little bit. Let's bring up Eve. Let's let Eve do her thing. Let's let Eve do her thing.
Hi.
Good morning, friend.
Good morning. I thought I'd pop up here and do a quick mod announcement. We've had a great show this morning, very informative, lots of education. Good morning, Olive. Good morning, OB. Hello, my friends. Y'all know that I'm here to remind everyone to please support our fabulous hostess with the mostest. He's here every day with that fiery, feral fist for freedom, bringing you facts over feelings because facts still matter and they always will. So if you have the means, let's help Fax meet his gift goal and subwaves. I have not seen a subwave yet this morning, so let's get one going. Subscriptions are an easy way to show support. We have sub-only events like the weekly raffle giveaway. You can show support directly with the apps in the link tree of his bio, which is a great way to avoid the TikTok tariff. And you can find the Fax HQ and Discord link there as well. You can check out the merch, which is another way to show support, but you also get something for yourself. I want to remind y'all that Steve is here for over 20 hours a week just on this show alone. That doesn't include the additional shows he does like the Effin' Fight For, Facts After Dark, and he's covering really important information that's relevant. And he does this because he's committed to our community and providing a platform for voices to be heard. So please show your love, honestly. And we have a daily dollar donation drive, which I want to encourage y'all to participate in. I know that, merch can be expensive, but giving $1, we can all afford $1. And that truly adds up. It makes a huge impact. We have almost 900 people in here viewing this live stream. So imagine if only a fraction of y'all donated $1, we could give back to the community in a big way. Bigly, huge way. Okay, if y'all are just looking for that fun-free forum for the Facts family to frolic, then Discord is the place. If the link in the bio doesn't work, try to copy and paste it into a browser. Y'all know the drill. Discord is awesome. That's where we discuss all of these topics in more detail. We post the links and live sources. When you join, just open a quick ticket so we can get you verified. Now, if you haven't already, please click that follow or heart me up at the top of the screen next to Fax's name. You can join the team for the cost of a penny. You can do this every day, and it helps the algorithm to keep us on the FYP. Under that same tab, you can also claim your participation. You can claim that you sent out your heart me, that you posted comments, and that also helps the algorithm. The main thing that we ask of y'all is to interact in the comments. Tap, tap, tap. Tap your little hearts out. It's always free to tap and share out the live. Again, this helps the algorithm, and we want to get this message out to as many people as possible. After this live stream, when you have a chance, head on over to YouTube or Twitch and subscribe to FactsStillMatter there as well. There's no content on Twitch yet, but it's coming soon, so you want to be ready when it shows up. And on YouTube, you can rewatch shows for any information you missed. Lastly, I'll just say, be kind, smile at a stranger, and have a fuck your feelings kind of day.
Thank you, my dear friend. I appreciate you very much. Be safe out there. Keep fighting. Keep punching Nazis in the dick. I appreciate you. Have a good day.
Can you
Always.
Do you mind dropping me real quick? I gotta go do another show real quick. So I appreciate you having me up.
Bye.
I love you so much.
Later. See you later. Okay. So, again, we covered the press conference this morning. That was just, I don't know how else you could be objective and just, of course, you're going to fanboy because everybody likes, the tough guy, clean shaven, Pete Kegsbreath, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense ever, and arguably one of the most unqualified and incompetent cabinet members ever. There's no denying that. I still want to stay on this story a little bit because the spin that we're in now, the spin zone that we're in. By the way, spin is part of politics. I think you guys know what spin is. So I'll give you an example. After the State of the Union or after large speeches or large press conferences, big events, you have what's referred to as the spin room. Now, it's the administration will invite either journalists or oftentimes they'll invite opposition, and they'll have people in the spin room, and then the press will gaggle around them. So it's spin in response to what was said, and then opposition spin. So it's a strategy. So when we talk about spin, it is something that happens, right? And it is part of the process. But what we're seeing now for the administration, the level of spinning. Do you remember Gen Xers, remember the little merry-go-rounds when you went to I know you remember these, Obi, when you went to the
out of metal,
the playground, and you would try. The goal was to have your buddies spin it as fast as you could, so you'd see if you could hold on until you puked or got thrown off. Right? Those things were fucking wild. Again, that's just proving that Gen X once again is the best generation of them all. Anywho, that's kind of what the administration is now, because a lot of the spin now is anti-Iran. What I mean by that is the blame has been shifted to Iran for violating the ceasefire when we know it was Israel first. Okay? The blame has gone, and I am not defending Iran. I am not defending them. I am just pointing out that we're trying to get to the truth. That's our goal. Okay? So this is Mike Johnson, Christian National Speaker of the House, who has some very pointed statements towards who's responsible.
The ceasefire is fragile is because you have Iran as one of the parties, and they have demonstrated for us over the decades that they are not to be trusted. Ronald Reagan said, "Trust but verify." We're now in a posture where we verify and then trust. Okay, and that's where we are. They have not been truthful over the years. They have not been reliable for their word, and they have in so many ways they've been a very irrational actor on the world stage. So it's fragile just because of the parties involved.
Wow.
Except
wow.
for the entire time the agreement was in place, They were
They were
doing
honoring
their
it.
part. They were doing exactly what was asked of them.
Exactly. By the way, programming note, myself and Felice are thinking about doing like a late night debate tonight. We both have been talking about doing this for a while. She's traveling, but just got a note for her. So I don't know exactly when, friends, but I'll be joining her on her channel sometime this evening. I will let you know. Just want to let you know that. So you're right. So Mike Johnson trying to spin this in a variety of ways. Everything that we've heard since Saturday, since the event of Operation Midnight fucking Hammer, whatever the hell it is, has been in an attempt to stroke the D of the president. Okay, that's what this is. He went out early, and the reason that I know that what he said was bullshit, obviously, but oftentimes when he says things that are bullshit, he'll just kind of continue to spread his nonsense. But it was his reaction. I have never seen Donald Trump drop the F-bomb in when talking to the press, ever. I've never seen that. Maybe hot mic moments, but never directly to the press. So when he dropped the F-bomb, that was a big tell to me. A big, big tell that he knew he was caught. And then ever since then, it was not addressing the fact that there was inconsistency in information. It was Pete Hegseth, it's Mike Johnson, it's the CIA director, it's et cetera, trying to prop up the president. That's what happens in fascism, friends. That's what authoritarian governments do. You either fall in line and you bend a knee to your leader, or you're off the train. Okay? So there's so many examples of that, though. So many examples. This is not specific to that, but at the Hague in the Netherlands for the NATO summit, which was crazy. You could hear the de-essing by Pete Hegseth about NATO being asked to contribute more. We'll see if that happens, right? But this was in response to the war in Ukraine, which is still happening. So this journalist asks a very pointed question, and this is how the president answered.
Once said that you would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. You later said that sarcastically.
Of course it was sarcastic.
But you've now been in office for 5 months and 5 days. Why have you not been able to end the Ukraine war?
Because it's more difficult than people would have any idea. Vladimir Putin has been more difficult. Frankly, I had some problems with Zelensky. You may have read about him. And it's been more difficult than other wars.
I'm sorry, what was it again?
You once said that you would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. You later said that sarcastically.
Of course it was sarcastic.
But you've now been in office for 5 months and 5 days. Why have you not been able to end the Ukraine war?
Because it's more difficult than people would have any idea. Vladimir Putin has been more difficult. Frankly, I had some problems with Zelensky. You may have read about him. And it's been more difficult than other wars.
Okay, so a couple things, right? The sarcasm moment. Yeah, well, of course it was sarcastic. You MAGA, you guys, those that see no crimes, hear no truth, and speak no facts, you were all promised no new wars and that the war in Ukraine would end. So neither one of those things have happened. In fact, we now know that NATO is even providing more support for Ukraine because Ukraine is, let's call it what it is. They are decimating the Russian army, okay? And Putin knows that. So none of those things have happened. So when do you lift the veil and realize that not only have you been lied to, but the promises now are just sarcasm? And the promises now are just the fake news, not reporting on the information accurately. You can continue to live in your little pipe dream, but that's fine. We'll just sit here and just continue to laugh at you. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. Good morning, Anthony. How are you today?
Hey, bud. Well, remember the last few times I've been up here how I mentioned that Trump kind of fucked the semiconductor industry with his whole tariff trade war with China?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, well, the layoff waves have not stopped. A couple of companies just basically shotgun blasted from the hip across their entire staff yesterday. They started with people with 20 plus years a couple weeks ago, and a couple months before that, going for the people that made the most, getting rid of the most experience. Then they just said, screw it. We'll just draw names from a hat. They were even, I even got reports that some other people who were, it was literally their first day on the job, got laid off. And
I'm not questioning big picture, Anthony, but those are anecdotal examples. So do you have industry specific? I know that we talk about the semiconductor industry and about how there was a degradation and how there were job losses, but I just want to be careful that we don't use anecdotes to make it a larger issue than it is.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to name my company directly just yet because I haven't gotten my severance package.
You don't have to do that. I'm not asking you to dox yourself. I just want to make sure that we're making it more about one person or one individual and more about industry trends. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure we're making. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure we're making it more about industry trends as opposed to individual companies. And we've seen the industry trends. We know that. And what I'm hearing you say is that the industry trend of job losses in the tech sector, specifically semiconductor, is continuing, right?
Kind of. This one's more like you could actually directly associate this to a single action by Trump is the thing, which was his threat of the blanket tariffs against China before he even got in office, when they had their effective, immediate, all-out ban on any semiconductor material going to the United States, which created an immediate supply chain deficit across the entire industry, which meant that everyone had to find a new supplier, but nobody knew who to buy from because of the changing tariffs every week. And all of the companies across the board in their last quarterly meeting said we're expecting record lows for 2025 after not hitting target goals for 2024, and had just started major cost-saving measures and basically just, like I said, shotgun blasting across the hip, hoping they can make a profit still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm trying to imagine what it would be like for. I mean, it's one thing for large manufacturers, but small, mid-level manufacturers who are just, inventory is always the question. You're talking about your P&L and how much inventory to carry, et cetera, and you can't. Your buying power, you don't know what to do. You don't know how much staff to have. It's a disaster. And like we say, a lot of these things that are happening now is by design. It's a distraction as we watch the economy suffer, as we watch oil prices fluctuate, as we watch the stock market fluctuate. Of course, there's going to be layoffs in every industry. But I appreciate the reminder of that. Thanks for jumping in today, Anthony. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, President Trump, for making our economy better.
Right. Have a good day. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm going to play some sound from Charlie Kirk, and the reason I'm going to do that is because there's a larger picture here in regards to these kinds of things, and I've spoke of this kind of all over the map today, guys, just because there's just a lot going on in my brain, but there's just a lot to cover. So I want to try to make sure that we can address. We may not be able to address all of it, but maybe we can address enough of it just to kind of keep you guys, as a reminder why everything else is designed to distract your eyes from something else. Meanwhile, we have this constant undercurrent of misogyny, the patriarchy, sexism, Christian nationalism that's always there, and we're always going to find examples of how we can touch on it. So there was some sound from Charlie Kirk that's pretty disturbing. The campus tour. The reason I want to play it is because the campus tours. He's been doing this for a long time, and if you look at the crowd, if you ever watch some of the videos, not the edited videos, but Melly Mel, Kipper does not need a friend. Kipper's got a friend. Kipper's good. But thank you for your concern. Everybody's looking out for Kipper. What about me? Seriously. Anyway, this college tour continues, and if you look at the crowd that go to these events, they're primarily white men. When we speak of this in terms of the red pilling and the manosphere, that's kind of why I want to play this, and why it's necessary that we sort of unpack some of the things that we said. There was a clip, and I couldn't find it, but remember there was talk about 2 drunk college students and they fall asleep and then consent becomes a non-issue, like the gray area of consent. Well, this picks up on that conversation, and then we'll address the some of the details that he said on the other side. So here you go.
Really quick, we're running out of time. One last one.
Okay, so aside from DEI, I also wanted to ask you to confirm the murky gray area again with sexual assault. In a previous video, you mentioned that if there was two 19-year-olds, they were drunk, and then...
Yes, if they're so again, no means no, and stop means stop, but you would both agree, if two parties are intoxicated, there's gray area, right?
No, I don't.
Actually, yes, the law says that consent cannot be given or withdrawn if both parties or either party is intoxicated. That's the law. The law here in California is that if one party is intoxicated, it is rape by either the woman or the man. That's gray area. So did you know that if you have sex with an intoxicated person, you're a rapist? Did you know that?
I didn't.
That's what the law says. That's what I meant by gray area. I encourage people to look into that because when it's past 2 a.m. and both parties are intoxicated, by law, they're actually both committing rape. According to California law and national law in every state, if one or both parties are intoxicated, consent is not a thing. You are not allowed to have sex with that person under that circumstance.
Okay, so then to you, then it's not a gray area. It's sexual assault by law.
No, I'm not willing to call every single person that's had sex while they're drunk a rapist. Are you?
Okay, couple things. I did some research into this. So in California, first of all, that's just again, think about what he is saying to the malleable minds of young men and women on college campuses across the country, basically saying that, listen, there's a gray area, if she falls asleep and she's a little intoxicated and you are too, I don't think we can call that grape or SA. Yeah, that's exactly what the fuck it is. That's exactly what the fuck it is. In California, engaging in intercourse with someone who is too intoxicated to give legal consent is considered grape, even if they said yes. This is addressed under California Penal Code 261A-3. Under California Penal Code 261, intercourse constitutes grape if the person is prevented from resisting by an intoxicating substance and the accused knew or should have known this condition. Legal consent requires the ability to understand the act's nature and consequences, which is impaired by significant intoxication. It is a felony with potential imprisonment and required sex offender registration. The accused's own intoxication is not a defense. Mr. Kirk also claimed that it is in every state the same. That, again, is another lie. No, the specifics of California's intoxicated grape law are not identical in every state. And here's why and what's similar. State-specific laws, each state has its own definitions and elements for crimes, including those related to SA and intoxication. Voluntary versus involuntary intoxication. While some states criminalize sexual contact with a victim who is unable to consent due to intoxication, the degree of intoxication and whether it was voluntary or involuntary can influence how different states approach the issue. Reasonably should have known. California's law states that the accused is guilty if they knew or reasonably should have known the victim was incapacitated by intoxication. This element may vary in every other state. So again, this is what now that you know that, listen to what Charlie Kirk said again.
Can I ask?
Really quick, we're running out of time. One last one.
Okay, so aside from DEI, I also wanted to ask you to confirm the murky gray area again with sexual assault. In a previous video, you mentioned that if there was two 19-year-olds, they were drunk, and then...
Yes, if they're intoxicated. So again, no means no, and stop means stop, but you would both agree, if two parties are intoxicated, there's gray area, right?
No, I don't.
Actually,
there's no gray
the law
area.
Says that consent cannot be given or withdrawn if both parties or either party is intoxicated. That's the law. The law here in California is that if one party is intoxicated, it is rape by either the woman or the man.
He doesn't
That's
agree with
gray
that.
area.
That's not
so
gray.
Did you know that if you have sex with an intoxicated person, you're a rapist? Did you know that?
I didn't.
That's what the law says. That's what I meant by gray area. I encourage people to look into that because when it's past 2 a.m. and both parties are intoxicated, by law, they're actually both committing rape. According to California law and national law in every state, if one or both parties are intoxicated, consent is not a thing. You are not allowed to have sex with that person under that circumstance.
Okay, so then to you, then it's not a gray area. It's sexual assault by law.
No, I'm not willing to call every single person that's had sex while they're drunk a rapist. Are you?
You can make up your own determinations, but again, I read you the law. And it's not the same law in all 50 states, and there is no gray area. There is no gray area. And the reason I think it's extremely important that we share this is because of the influence that Charlie Kirk has over young men and ultimately young women. There is no, thank you, Eve. Consent can always be withdrawn at any moment, period. There is no gray area. Let me say that again. There is no gray area. Your intoxication, according to the law, is not a defense. There's no gray area. It is so scary to hear that kind of stuff. I mean, I know you guys know that it exists, right? And I know you know who Charlie Kirk is, but I don't know if everyone is aware enough of about how much influence he has. So think of a circumstance. Think of a circumstance. Well, there's gray area. So something happens. Sexual assault is committed, alleged. You go to court. Well, it's gray area. Well, there's no gray area. There is none. There is none. And then we know, of course, how I think it's 1 in 4, might even be 1 in 3.5 women now have been SA'd. You think it was gray area to them? Right? Why are colleges allowing him to spew his hate and lies? You know the answer to that question. Because it's exposure for them, right? It turns into other things. And if they don't support it, if they don't let him come, then they'll say that they're liberal indoctrination factories. There's no gray area. There is none. Period. Again, there is no gray area. None. No means no, but yes means yes. No means no. Consent can be withdrawn at any fucking moment whatsoever. Doesn't matter. Being intoxicated is not an excuse. User, how are you today? User, lottery number, are you there? Did you want to say something, sir? Guess not. Okay.
Sounds like
I know the bright lights in the big city. Probably. I hope people understand that, how dangerous that shit is. I mean, just the fact that Charlie thinks he's smarter than everybody, and she asked the right question. So no, what you're saying is there's no gray area. And he's like, yeah, there is. Well, no, there isn't. I don't know. How else can we say it other than there is no fucking gray area? Consent can be withdrawn at any moment. If you're not in a position to withdraw it, then guess what? It's fucking grape or SA. Enough of the semantic bullshit. There's no gray area. You flat out lied. I'll read you California's law again. In California, engaging in intercourse with someone who is too intoxicated to give legal consent is considered grape. That's the fucking law. Even if they said yeah, even if they said yes, California Penal Code 261A3. Intercourse constitutes grape if the person is prevented from resisting by an intoxicating substance and the accused knew or should have known this condition. Legal consent requires the ability to understand the act's nature and consequences, which is impaired by significant intoxication. It is a felony with potential imprisonment and required sex offender registration. The accused's own intoxication is not a defense. There's no fucking gray area whatsoever. None. Period. Henley, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So I just wanted to point out how incredibly dangerous it is to be doing this on college campuses. Saying these kinds of things on college campuses.
Can you get a little closer to your mic so everybody can hear you? To make sure. Yep.
Sorry, one sec.
That's good. That's better.
Okay. I just want to point out that it's really dangerous to be doing this on college campuses, encouraging all of these men, telling them that these things are okay. It's just not acceptable. We already have problems throughout campuses all over the country. I can give an example. It's a little different, but I'm in Kansas, and one of our colleges had a serial rapist for, I think it was like 8 years, and they could not find the person. Now, this person worked for Best Buy as one of the Geek Squad and would come in and work on people's computers to fix them and then leave their windows open and come into their homes and do it when they were asleep. But these are very problematic issues, especially when women are already not reporting. And then for him to spew out, misinformation and disinformation to say that, I mean, just in itself, I wish that she had caught him right there, because he said that being intoxicated doesn't give you the right to withdraw consent.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Exactly.
A person should be able to withdraw consent at any given time. If it is not enthusiastic consent, it is not consent.
Right, and moreover, if they're not in a position to address consent, then there's consent's implied. That without it's either, you know what I mean. So that's the twisting of his words there.
Right, but I find it like incredibly dangerous, because he's not speaking to a group of, and I don't want to categorize like women versus men, but he's speaking to a particular group of men. And this particular group of men, these red pill men, these incels, are potentially have the capability of anger and violence towards women because of the situations that are happening within their own groups, which is why they are flocking to people like Charlie Kirk.
I mean, you're absolutely right. So this is we've spoken about this before, about how the impact of red pill, especially in the minds of middle school, high school age men, and they've grown up in the red pill era. They've grown up with Andrew Tate. They've grown up with Charlie Kirk. They see Andrew Tate as someone who's achieved all this success in the world. He drives around in his fancy cars. He's got properties everywhere, and we know what he is. He's a predator. He's a rapist. He's a kidnapper. He's a trafficker. We know that. So many that are not, who are allowing themselves to become influenced by that, see that as part of success. Again, I'm making a general statement here, but even if it's one person who believes that, that's one too many. Right. So 100%, yes. I say in this day and age, this really tests parenting. This is really where you're going to find out if you are a competent parent, to be able to address these kinds of things with your kid.
I also think it's one of the reasons that it's important for us to be able to be teaching children from the grade of kindergarten consent and what consent is. Age appropriate consent, or teaching, but it's so important because our children should know that there's consent in all things. And so if we start early, because I have two 13-year-olds and girls, and they went to schools, and they go to separate schools, but they went to their schools, and there were boys in their grades and throughout their hallways in junior high after the whole Nick Fuentes thing, Your Body, My Choice.
Exactly. Came
back, and both of them came home upset from two separate schools. And we cannot be having that. We cannot let our kids boys think that this is a joke. It's not funny. Like, it's dangerous. And so I really do think it's important to teach all children, and they can identify things that are happening to them, and perhaps we can do a better job of, letting them know that it's okay to go to someone. I know they tell you you're not safe, but you can. These are not okay things, so that maybe they're less likely to be groomed. I don't know how that will work, but the sooner we teach consent, the better, I feel like. And
I agree. I totally agree. Henley, thank you for jumping in today on that topic.
Thanks,
I appreciate you very much for being here. You got it. Have a good day. Thanks. See you later. I've said that I totally agree in age appropriate sex ed. I would start in preschool. Like, how about just the proper name for body parts? And then as they grow, the conversations grow. Proper name for body parts, what good touch and bad touch is. Oftentimes, children don't know the difference between good touch and bad touch. They think somebody that loves them, that tells them that they love them, can touch them inappropriately, and they wouldn't even know it's inappropriate, which is part of the reason why kids are not conditioned to be able to tell the truth. So how about age-appropriate sex ed, starting in kindergarten or preschool? Proper names for body parts, good touch, bad touch, and then you work your way through the conversation regarding consent. your body, your privacy. I firmly believe that. In fact, most cultures outside of our country teach those kinds of things. And why is that? Because the religious right equates sex ed with shame. Like, you can't talk about these things in your house. You can't, or you shouldn't. Case in point, whenever you go abroad, you see topless beaches. You see nudist colonies because people don't care, because they're not shamed by their body, or they're not told that they should be ashamed by their body. I'm so scared I've got an 18-year-old daughter who's soon to be 18. And I'm terrified. I am grateful that I live in a small town, in small town USA. I'm grateful, but now she wants to go to college at USC, or she wants to go to college at the University of Michigan. And we say this every single day. We care more about, we on the left, people who believe in human rights and protections for all, we care more about the health and well-being of their daughters. We do. We care more about it. Not only because that they're more likely to commit violent crimes against their own children, but because they don't feel like they can have these conversations with their kids. I know there's bad actors in small towns. Of course there are, TJ. I get it. But why would we not want to have these conversations? Why would we not be able to provide tools for our children to understand subtle things like good touch, bad touch, proper names for body parts? And then you guys ask yourself in the question, have you had those conversations? Where did you learn about the birds and the bees? Did you learn it behind the dumpster outside of middle school? Or did you, that's generational, right? Again, I had progressive parents. I had that conversation with my mom. I had those conversations, right? So when you grew up in the 80s, you had other things you had to worry about as well. HIV AIDS was out there. So these conversations were important. And it blows me away that so many people just cheer on every single day what Charlie Kirk says, right? I know most people never did. Why would we be afraid of that? If we truly care about protecting our kids, then there's no better protection than having these conversations that are subtle and wise and informed. Good morning, friend. I don't know what your username is. Hello? Are you there? D, are you there? I guess not.
In the pocket.
In the pocket.
By the way, can I just say something?
Please.
I have a really hard time using the term men when you're referring to college-aged students. They are still legally children, right?
Generally speaking, you know what I mean, though.
And yeah, generally speaking, and their frontal lobes, generally speaking, are also not fully developed. While they can be convicted as adults, doesn't mean they are adults, right? And that's what Charlie Kirk is doing, right? So again, I will say this and stand 10 toes down on this. There's zero difference between Charlie Kirk and a chicken hawk. Zero.
It's true.
They are doing the exact same thing. They're using young, undeveloped minds to get what they want. And as far as I'm concerned, he is one of the most popular groomers in the United States. And the fact that he's legally allowed to groom the way he's grooming says more about the lack of modernization of our legal system than anything else. He should not be allowed to do what he's doing. He is a danger to society. He is grooming young men and young women. And he is doing so because he is a believer that a husband cannot grape a wife. That's why he speaks in these terms. This is the world that he believes in, right? And the guy's not smart. He's pretty fucking stupid. Because as we've seen, anytime anybody can actually challenge him with facts, right? He can't do it. He'll make some claim that they're an agitator or that they were paid to be there. It's because he's stupid.
Yeah. Again, these conversations that can be difficult for people, but I'm hoping that as we discuss the importance of, education, I believe if we are talking about how we need to shift our focus in our country, we need to have these conversations. That can be difficult. Now, think about yourself as a parent. If you didn't have these conversations with your parents as a kid, then how can you expect to have these conversations with your kids and vice versa? So I just want people to be aware how important these kinds of things are, how important these things are, as we are doing what we can to protect the most innocent among us, our children. If you truly care about them, then show that you care about them by acknowledging the issue. Good morning, friend. How are you today? Iris, how are you? Are you there?
Oh, sorry. There was an error. I'm just watching and listening.
No problem. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Have a good day.
All right.
All right. Let's get back into some of the hypocrisy, whatever you want to call it. This was Ron DeSantis talking about Zohran Mamdani. I think we haven't really heard much from Mr. DeSantis because his political career is over. But in case you don't know, Zohran Mamdani, and what they're calling an earthquake of an upset. I don't know. I just think people are realizing that maybe progressive politics might be better and policies might be better. So he won the Democratic primary in New York. It's not official yet because in the ranked choice voting system in the mayoral race in New York requires a candidate to achieve above 50%. So they'll go through the rounds, and eventually, because Andrew Cuomo has conceded, eventually he'll bypass that number, and he will be the nominee going into the general election this fall. But the criticism from the status quo Democrats has been like, oh, this is going to be the end of our party. There's going to be a split within the party. Well, fuck them. You guys know how I feel about that. And then you've got the opposition, which is Ron DeSantis and his white go-go boots and his Christian nationalism, also trying to paint this picture that New York is about to become this socialist haven. Okay, so this is what he had to say about Mamdani's rise to power, so to speak.
Socialist mayor candidate wins in New York City, you're going to see real estate values skyrocket even more in Palm Beach because people are going to get out of that city. He doesn't think that you should have law enforcement in dangerous parts of the city, that you should send in social workers. See how that works out for you.
I don't have any issue with that at all, to be honest.
And that's also not what he said, by the way. Exactly. That's not his position. The position is one that is very clear and one that is actually starting to take hold here in Los Angeles, though there are not enough. And Amy Dawn has spoken about this too. There are resource officers who are social workers, who are trained and educated. And instead of sending someone with an associate's degree, which is what most cops typically only have, they send in someone with an advanced education to diffuse situations and have conversations that don't involve handcuffing, punching people in the head, or tackling people because, 3 of their sons are Marines. And so what conservatives are afraid of is that the police state that they are so desperate to have won't happen. I ask you, Steve, what is more dangerous, a police state or highly trained individuals stepping in to diffuse problems in which all human rights are respected?
I would take trained professionals who can address mental health conditions on the spot as opposed to the police state, in my personal opinion. Yeah. Community resource officers, mental health training. Let's overfund. So in my platform that I gave to you guys for free, how the left can start winning elections. The right has been beating the left for years on the issue of crime. They even though it was a lie, they used the defund the police argument effectively, and it worked. So I would say, as part of your strategy, we are going to overfund public safety by providing resources to law enforcement agencies to be able to address mental health issues, crisis intervention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We will address crime at its source by confronting poverty, by providing more access to affordable housing, making sure that community health centers aren't being closed, and guaranteeing that people who are in distress receive the care and attention that they need. Take the argument to them. Own it. That's exactly what Mamdani did. That's exactly what he did. Two things can't be true. You can address crime. Let's get to the root cause, primarily poverty, and the fact that we have a militant police approach to criminal justice in our country. So how about we provide resources, maybe not the officers themselves, but resource officers who can address crisis instead of treating mental health like it's a disease. Well, it is, right. But instead of treating it like it is the cause of something, right? And that's how you shift the argument. You move away from the stigmatization of it, and instead you provide resources and support for the people who need it.
Right.
Okay?
Addressing and taking care of humans on a human level. That's what we're asking for and expecting. And that's not socialist, by the way. Exactly. And then speaking of that, I want to take a quick pivot here to remind folks that not only is it Pride Month, but June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I have been transparent with you guys about the status of my mental health is in the shitter. There's no doubt about it. But I want to use this opportunity to remind men and all of us in our community who've got men in your life and you support men that roughly speaking, this is from the CDC. This is data is from 2022. 10% of U.S. adults receive counseling or therapy in the past 12 months. 10%. Men, only 6.5%, while women, over 12%. So there's a gap there, obviously. First of all, the fact that the majority of our nation are not seeking mental health services, that speaks to universal health care, okay? Of adults with any mental illness, 51% received treatment, only half. Less than 40% men and over 60% women. A report from 2021, this is from the American Medical Association, found that just 40% of men with a mental health issue sought help compared to 60% of women. Harvard noted 1 in 10 men experience anxiety or depression, yet fewer than half seek treatment. Men are significantly less likely to seek counseling than women. Even among men who do have mental illness, most do not receive treatment. This contributes to higher male self-unaliving rates. Men unalived by suicide roughly 4 times more often than women do. Why the gap? Common sense would tell you that it's a stigma around men's vulnerability and manliness. Underdiagnosis with male mental health often overlooked or seen as anger, substance abuse, or stress. And then structural challenges, including lack of gender-sensitive care, fewer male-focused services. Bottom line, 7% of men in the general population receive any therapy at all. Among men with mental illness, 40 to 42% get treatment, lagging far behind women. And strategies like tailored outreach, destigmatization, and gender-aware clinical approaches are essential to improve male engagement in therapy. There are a few groups, and I'll post these links in my in our Discord. These are groups that I've been familiar with for a while. There's a few here. I'll give you the names. And like I said, I'll post these in our Discord. Heads Up Guys, it's a leading international resource for men battling depression with self-check tools, support directories, and strategies tailored to male mental health norms. Man Therapy, a humorous destigmatization platform blending therapy with relatable tough guy culture, uses interactive tools and storytelling to connect with men resistant to traditional mental health messaging. Movember Foundation, which is No Shave November, and then Movember, originally a prostate cancer awareness campaign, now heavily involved in men's mental health and unaliving prevention, funds peer support and mental resilience training. The Good Men Project offers content and conversations on emotional intelligence, mental health, and masculinity. And then NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, men's group specifically. Some local chapters offer men-only support groups and resources tailored to male-identifying chapters. It's a serious epidemic. We've got Charlie Kirk. 2 things can be true. I say this a lot, but 2 things can be true. It's all men until it's no men. And young men in our country need a lot of help. There's no denying that. Again, it is all men until it's no men. And part of that is because a lot of men in our country need a lot of help. So if you've got young men in your life in particular, or men in general in your life, please let them know that they're not alone. Please let them know that there are resources available to them.
please let them know. I mean, for Obi and I from the Gen X generation, the fact that I hope, and this is kind of what I want for the last half of my life, to be a role model as someone who stands up here every single day. And Obi knows me. This is not about me in any way. I just want to be a voice for people who feel like society tells them that they can't seek help, because society tells men that the only emotions you can show publicly are fear, or are anger and lust. And I'd like to flip that. I really would like to flip that narrative to say that your emotions are your emotions. And by the way, anger is an emotion. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be transparent. It's okay to show signs of weakness. And society says that men who cry or that men who show emotion are weak. I challenge that. I say men who are willing to show emotion are incredibly strong and incredibly aware, self-aware, realizing that they're struggling, that they're hurting. And I really, really worry about the future state. I've got boys in that range. My middle son turns 22 today. So he's in that spot. His older brother, I've been transparent about his situations, his battle with alcohol. He's been sober ever since he started treatment. It's left. We're pushing 130 days now. But his mental health has always been an issue. We've talked about it time and time and time again. And I am proud to say that he is in therapy and has been. And I'm hoping that other people will feel empowered by the things that we talk about here, that we talk about here daily, about why it is so incredibly important for men to feel like they're not alone. And that's on all of us, right? Again, two things can be true. It is all men until it's no men. We do know why women choose the bear. And young men in particular are under threat. So let's hope we can help them. Everybody keep tapping, please. We need one more sub to hit our wave so we can do our subscriber-only event tomorrow. If we have 325 active subs going into our show tomorrow, we'll spin the wheel. We need one more subscription. Mother of Doggos, how are you this morning? Mother of Doggos, are you there? I think they're just tapping. I'm the progressive in your pocket. That's me. Hey, I found a Mrs. Werther's original butterscotch candy in your pocket. Hey, Toodle, how you doing, friend?
Hey, dobre utro. I bet you it's a taste.
Oh, you got your account back.
It's a taste. Oh, this is still my backup.
Okay.
But that's fine. I'm still on my other account, but I can't go live on it. That's why I'm on my backup. I didn't get my whole account bounced, just my live access. I popped my TikTok cherry. my first ban. I've gotten strikes before.
Yeah, you're part. I remember when Obi got his first one. He mentioned to me, he said, "Hey, I got my first CGV." I'm like, "Welcome to the party."
I know. You're probably like, "Yeah." I eat those like Werther's candies in my pocket.
Well, you know, this has not necessarily been an experiment, but since you guys know that we really don't do debates much in this space, like first of all, I don't like it when people use debate, and I'm guilty of that too. We don't really debate here, you know. Anyway, you'll notice that I have not gotten, I get our daily restrictions, and I think we've addressed that, but we don't get our community guidelines violations much at all anymore because, you know, there's not a lot of yelling and screaming and people throwing out bullshit. So that should tell you where a lot of those community guidelines violations come from. I'm just saying. That's all.
The TJs,
what's on your mind today?
Patricks of the world will still help you out.
Yes. Although TJ's has surprised me a little bit today. Some things that he's said, he's been like, yeah, okay, I understand that. I'm like, wow, okay, maybe TJ is critically thinking a little bit.
I mean, you can't come here every day and not get some sort of critical thinking into your head from all the information you provide. So hats off to TJ for coming here, and you know, and I'm sure I don't know how old TJ is or how they, them, he, she, it, whatever, but you know, it's probably good for their mental health to be here. I'm hoping.
I would agree with that. What's on your mind today, friend?
Well, first I just want to say you're right about men's mental health. That's so important. I've started going to at least medical therapy for ADD, so that's going to help out with anxiety and depression. But don't be afraid to go to therapy, boys. Gen X especially. It's hard for us
Absolutely.
to say ouch.
Throw some dirt on it.
Yeah, but I really wanted to come up because I'm so super excited about Mom Donnie.
Me too.
It's amazing. I am feeling Obama vibes for sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, I was trying to compare that to something, and it was kind of an Obama vibe, right? It was really,
really
sort of
is.
like unexpected. Yeah, sort of unexpected. Like a different kind of message. Hopeful, not the same old, same old. Although Obama was way too moderate for me, and I can be critical. I can look back and say, yeah, I like the guy, but he was too moderate. Anyway, but you're right. That's the kind of vibe that I got.
An Obama with socialism, which is great. I saw videos yesterday of like the watch party in Brooklyn when they announced the nomination win, and what really struck me, of course, was the excitement of the crowd, but how young the crowd was.
I agree.
I've been going to No Kings protests and other protests ever since this administration's come in, and I've noticed that all those protests, it's probably ages 45 and 50 up mostly at most of those protests. I've seen some younger people, but the majority are older, which is great. I'm glad people are coming out, but seeing the young being activated is exciting me. And I saw a Guardian op-ed was talking about it as well. And what kind of keyed me into the Obama moment was a lot of people that are joining his team to do the door knockings and outreach is saying this is their first time getting into politics. And I remember that's what happened with Obama, and that's really what swelled and brought his wave in was people getting tuned in for the first time.
Yeah, they talk about that in terms of the Obama coalition. Like it kind of brought different groups within the Democratic Party together, groups that may not have ever been core Democratic voters. I mean, the Democrats used to be the go-to, the go-to party for the working class, and I've been critical of the Democrat because I think they've ignored the working class for a very, very long time, and that's been exposed. I mean, again, I don't think Kamala Harris had enough time to run her campaign. I just wish there would have been less attention on the celebrity and more attention on the kitchen table. I don't think she had enough time to do that. I get that, but she also got a lot of money from a lot of corporate PACs and a lot of billionaires funded her campaign, and I think that is fair criticism. We can be objective, and we've got to look back at that and say, okay, that is fair criticism. Mom Donnie's campaign, it was not big dollars. It was small dollar donors. They put their money behind door knocking, and they beat a machine. They beat a Nepo baby machine in New York politics. And that says a lot.
Exactly. It's amazing.
They said a lot. Yeah.
And I was going to say
you guys chat. I'll be right back.
It's not just an Obama kind of groundswell with the charisma that he has, but I think it's kind of, populist kind of awakening too, certainly because of his leftist policies. It's kind of which the right is going nuts with calling them socialists, and I think.
But he's not a leftist; he's a progressive.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there, and I'm a progressive myself, so I'm 100% for what he's for. And the more the right attacks him, it's going to be better for him, I believe, because it's
100%. The fact that Trump lost his ever-loving mind over it, it's like, hey, you don't live in New York anymore, and no one in New York actually cares about you,
right?
Or your opinion. And the thing is that so many people are making comments, right? Yet have never lived in either of the 5 boroughs for a single day. But so many conservatives are so upset. I've lived in one of the 5 boroughs, right? I not only did I live there, but I fucking worked there, right? And back when I used to wear suits and had really fucking short conservative haircuts. There was a time.
Lie.
If he goes in, I'd love to.
There are photos.
Oh, I've seen some of the photos. You were fine. You're still fine, my friend, but you were fine, right?
Yeah. 6 foot, 195, 7.5% body fat.
Wow. Hey now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think my left leg has 7.5% body fat.
I think I just looked at my toes and was like, that's about 10% body fat right there.
No, but I think I'm always attuned to reactions. Like I who's going to react, and what you saw the reactions from a lot of the people who are the status quo Democrats in New York City saying all these people are going to leave now. Well, New York City corporations already pay, the rich already pay like 52-53% in taxes. And Mamdani has talked about raising your taxes 1 or 2 points. If they haven't left now, they're not going to leave then. Who fucking cares?
Right.
They're not going to leave, and that's the argument that they're trying to make. Ron DeSantis, that's how he played. All these businesses are going to pack up and leave. No, they're not. They're not going to leave. They're not going to leave. Now, go ahead.
If you live, here's something that a lot of people don't know. This is a unique situation. If you live in the state of New Jersey and you work on the Isle of Manhattan, you have to file taxes with New York City, and you have to file taxes with the state of New Jersey. So, there's already unique tax situations going on. This has been going on for decades. And people don't leave, right? There is not all of this $1 million real estate lying around because people have fled or are going to flee. When DeSantis said people are going to come to Florida, who would want to move to Florida? You can't get any insurance.
Exactly.
The exodus of Florida has reversed now. And during C-19 and during the the anti-mask mass movement, a lot of people were like, okay, we're leaving and we're going to Florida, and they had a huge influx in citizens. And but it's actually reversing now, because just what Obi was saying, like the insurance is awful.
Yeah,
political climate is awful.
Yep. The inflation, it's the highest in the inflation in Florida is the highest in the nation. Yeah.
Yep. And just
did somebody just say that the older millennial's been arrested? Mods, can you guys confirm? So somebody just said, again, we cannot confirm or deny. Someone posted in the chat that the older millennial has been arrested. We don't know. I'm not going to give him coverage. It'd just be interesting to find that out. Toodle, thank you for jumping in today, bro. I appreciate you.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you again. Whee!
Talk to you soon. Later.
Before I forget, did you see what the parliamentarian did about 30 minutes ago?
No, I did not.
Okay, so it's in the mod chat.
Okay.
The Medicaid cuts cannot be cut.
Oh. So acknowledging that there was cuts to Medicaid when the right has been lying about cuts to Medicaid. So the acknowledgement from the parliamentarian whose job it is to identify the things in there are saying that the cuts to Medicaid that the Republicans have denied cannot be done because it's in the fucking bill. Nice. I don't see that, but
HuffPost had an article, so did AP.
Okay. Okay. I want to a couple things. We've got some some new truths from the president. I'll read these in order. Okay. Holy shit. So this was after the press conference. Remember how I told you about how Pete Hegseth had to wipe his mouth after that whole episode. This was Trump's response. So obviously the S-ing of the D worked. One of the greatest, most I'm sorry, I have to do this for this. It's too good.
One of the greatest, most professional, and most confirming news conferences I have ever seen. The fake news should fire everyone involved in this witch hunt and apologize to our great warriors and everyone else.
Wow. And then remember the question that was asked, because there was satellite footage of trucks, lots of vehicles, going to and then leaving the nuclear sites that were boomed 2 days in advance of the boom booms being dropped. Okay, and then Pete Hegseth would ask that question, didn't address it, did not even attempt to answer it. The question was asked, how do you know that the enriched uranium was even there when we saw trucks on the satellite leaving? He didn't even address it. So Mr. Trump did. Okay. The cars and small trucks at the site were those of concrete workers trying to cover up the top of the shafts. Nothing was taken out of the facility. Would take too long, too dangerous, and very heavy and hard to move. How the fuck would you know, my guy? How would you know that? How would you know? Are we trying to get accurate information? You see what I mean? So I'm so glad that this happened the day after we dove into misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. I think we all agreed what we heard from the press conference. If you didn't hear it, I'm sure we'll be playing sound all the rest of the weekend tomorrow. It was a masterclass in disinformation and propaganda. A masterclass. The Defense Department knows that they have a preliminary assessment that does not match the statements that they made. In short, the preliminary assessment, even in the statement, I'll just read it to you. This is easy. Let's just do this. Where did I send that? Did I send that to you? I did. I sent that to my brother from another mother. Okay, this is the statement that this is the whole issue. This is the whole ball game, okay? The US Intel assessment, where is it? Hold on. Did it get taken down already? From the I know it, so I can share it with you. The intelligence agency, the DIA, the intelligence agency within the Department of Defense, okay, did a battle damage assessment, and they reported in the story that got leaked by somebody in their organization, because of course they only hire the best. And then the story was picked up by CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, and other global, Al Jazeera, BBC. They all said the same thing, that in this report, the contradiction from the White House's words about obliterated, devastated, destroyed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This report says preliminary reports are that it didn't do as much damage as they've claimed. And now they are trying to fucking spin it. So Donald Trump comes out and says, those trucks that were leaving a couple days before, they were just there to put concrete over the top. There was from the satellite images that I saw, I didn't see any concrete trucks. I just saw cargo trucks. So they can spin that any way they'd like. Then the last statement from the twice impeached, 4-time indicted. The NATO summit yesterday was great, all caps, the most unified and productive in history. A wonderful day with incredible and caring leaders. The agreed to 5% gives NATO real power. And then, is that the last statement? It is. So, okay. If NATO's going to contribute up to 5%, cool. That's great. Super. But this whole exercise this morning and coming off of yesterday, it's just a fascinating. How do I say this? I hope that the time that I've put in to kind of constantly talk about misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda is really helpful to you guys. I really hope it's helpful. Like we did the quiz yesterday, and some of those questions were hard, and I'll admit that. Some of the questions that I asked were hard, but it just showed how easy it is to be fooled, right? What we saw from the press conference today from the Department of Defense was disinformation. It was disinformation. And the reason we know that is because every time they were asked to provide response to the claims they made, they blamed the press. They blamed journalism. They blamed leakers. All right? Okay, so we do know that OM looks like has been arrested. Okay. Process at 2:38 a.m. this morning. He ripped off a whole bunch of people. Millions of dollars. So I say that to you because there's a lot of people in these spaces who are influenced by the OM. And I really hope that people can start to think about where they get their information from and where they get their sources from. I am not asking you guys to trust me. I am not. That's not why I'm here. But if you trust him, I mean, I've debunked so many videos that he's done. It took me like 30 seconds to do it. So I would, again, just encourage you to please, please, please verify your sources, whomever they are. and make sure that you're following accurate threads. Primary source, secondary source, tertiary source. Primary source would be the report itself. Secondary sources are fine as long as the secondary source is citing the primary source. And then a tertiary source would be a combination of opinion, conjecture, and fact. So be very careful. All right. Resisting an officer. Interesting. That's good to know. So I've got a little bit more sound I want to play for you guys because we had Pam Bondi who's being grilled right now. I don't know how I want to say this. I thought Pam Bondi, because she did serve as Florida's Attorney General, would at least have some clue. Like some clue. So I'm going to play you a couple of sound bites from her. You're going to be like, what the fuck is she talking about? So this is the time of the year when cabinet secretaries and heads of departments have to come before Congress to talk about appropriations, how they're spending their money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, she, not even being pressed with hard questions, just questions in general. The first one is about, I've got two separate bits of sound. This one is about basically saying that she had no idea that ICE agents were wearing masks. This one is wild. Here we go.
Pretending to be immigration enforcement, which has already happened. We've seen that happen. And these officers also risk being injured by individuals who think they're basically being kidnapped or attacked by some unknown assailant. So my question for you, Attorney General Bondi, is given the number of DOJ employees currently conducting immigration enforcement activities in support of DHS, how are you going to ensure that the safety of the public and the officers, if they continue to not follow required protocol to identify themselves as law enforcement?
Fair question.
And Senator Peters, that's the first time that issue has come to me about them cover. You're saying that law enforcement officers, when they cover their faces.
What?
I do know they are being doxxed, as you said.
I'm sorry,
they're
what?
being threatened. Their families are being threatened.
I'm sorry. Wait, Pam. Hold on, Pam. Hold on. Let me get this straight. You're the Attorney General, and the law enforcement, the federalized law enforcement, ICE agents in particular, are on the street doing your bidding, and you don't know that they're wearing a mask? Oh, okay.
Threatened. You know, it's
Again, I get that, but they have to identify themselves. There is an insignia oftentimes. They have to identify themselves as law enforcement. People think, here's a person coming up to me, not identified, covering themselves. They're kidnapping. They'll probably fight back. That endangers the officer as well. And that's a serious situation. People need to know that they're dealing with a federal law enforcement official.
Senator, I would be happy to look at that issue with you and talk to all of our partner law enforcement agencies. But I can assure you that if they're covering their faces now, it's to protect themselves. But they also want to protect all citizens. And that's something we can work together on.
What? I'm sorry. What?
What a non-answer, non-denial denial.
I mean, so I'm going to inform the public that I am so grossly incompetent. Let me think about this while I'm going to tell. Okay, listen, I can't address the fact that law enforcement are violating the law by covering their faces. So I'll just tell people that
they're not all law enforcement.
Correct. So I'm just going to tell people that I'm not aware of it. But that's going to show people that I'm incompetent. Yeah, but the people that vote for us in the Trump movement don't give a shit because they're too fucking stupid anyway. Because they don't see any crimes, they hear no truth, and they speak no facts. So I'm just going to let them know that I'm incompetent. They won't care. Cool. Okay. And I've got one more sound. This is going to be this one's interesting too. Hold on. Where's the other one that I had? Just can't fucking believe her. She is just every single day. I change my vote. One day I say that the most incompetent is Pete Hegseth. Then I say it's Linda McMahon. Then I say it's Pam Bondi. Yeah, okay. This is a good one too. Remember, CBP, the National Guard, ICE agents at the border, right? Then the question is, if the claims from the Trump administration are that the border is closed, then why do they need to be there? And this is Jack Reed, who's awesome. Jack Reed's a veteran. He's on the Senate. I love Jack Reed. He's fucking brilliant. The way he asks questions, the way he pokes the bear, so to speak. So Bondi fails to explain why troops are at the border if the border's closed.
That came into our country, and I'm so proud of the work of the men and women in law enforcement.
I don't think you've done anything to severely interrupt the arming of Mexican gangs, because that's really not what your focus, and I think your focus should be on that. Well, let me ask you another question. If the borders are closed, why do we have a division headquarters of the United States Army in Fort Huachuca and military elements across the board when the borders close and Border Patrol can handle it?
As former military, I would think you would know the answer to that, to keep Americans safe.
No, I think it's to promote the president's policies in the border, and the readiness of our forces is suffering as a result. Thank you.
Senator Britt. Right? Damn.
I mean, that was perfect.
Throw it right in her face. Throw it right in her face. Throw it right in her face. So, once again, if you guys claim that the border's closed, then why do we need the U.S. military there? What do we need them for? Well, it's to keep America safe. Okay, but the border's closed though. Why do we need them there if the border's closed? You libs, you don't understand. Reason the border's closed is because it's closed. Because it was open under Biden. Well, what does open mean? Like, was it like wide open? Yeah, the doors were open, the gates were open, the turnstiles were open, people were just coming in. Like it was 2-for-1 hot dog night at NASCAR. Well, that would mean that there would have to be policies that open the border, right? Well, there was the Biden open border policy. I have too many voices in my head. But it's the truth, right?
I love how people do not understand. You cannot close the border. It's not a door.
Exactly. There's
You
no
can
big gate.
You can restrict access.
Sure.
But there's this little thing that used to be called NAFTA that Trump didn't like it because somebody else signed it. So he basically made NAFTA 2.0. He then signed it. And it allows international commerce to travel through the border. Therefore,
Correct.
the border will never be closed. It can't be.
Correct. Good morning, Heather. How are you today, friend?
I'm okay. How are you, Steve?
I'm okay. What's going on?
I just wanted to say the part that irritates me the most about this stuff with immigration is that they're committing human rights violations with our tax dollars. My tax dollars are paying for people to be punched in the face and for people to be fed spaghetti with roaches in it and for a woman to lose her baby because lack of medical care. And that's what my tax dollars are paying for. And it's just disgusting and upsetting.
I know. I mean, no other comments necessary.
I know.
You're absolutely right.
Yep.
Yep.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and then to hear the Attorney General, first of all, claim that she doesn't know that the ICE agents that they federalized to do this, to do what you're talking about, violating people's rights and arresting American citizens and no due process, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, I didn't know they were wearing masks. Well, they don't want to be doxxed. So which is it? They don't want to be doxxed, which is why they're wearing masks, or you don't know that they're wearing masks?
Right.
Just somebody be honest, right?
Right, exactly. Right. And then these are the same people that refuse to wear mask during a global pandemic when millions of people were being unalived because of C-19, but they have no problem wearing a mask to, commit human rights violations.
Of course not. No, of course not. That's fine. That's totally fine because they're brown people, Heather.
Right. I know.
Yep.
It's always
I appreciate you, friend.
It's always those black and brown people, they're.
Yeah, it's always those black, brown people and women. Yep. Exactly.
Yep. We're just causing all the trouble, apparently.
All the trouble. Be good trouble. Do more of it.
Always.
I appreciate you.
You know me, always. I appreciate you, Steve.
Talk to you later. All right, bye.
Bye.
So again, we're bouncing around a little bit today because all these things are part of the whole picture we're trying to paint here. So we've got more people from reacting to the Mamdani win, or the primary win. Still got to run for the general, but is going to win. Democrat's going to win the mayor. He'll be the next mayor of New York City. And it's just how people are reacting in the right. So this was on Fox. Remember, I've talked to you guys about what the chyron is, right? The chyron is the language that they put at the bottom of the screen when they're trying to provide what it is specifically that they're talking about. I'm going to play you some sound. The chyron reads, New York City could soon have radical socialist mayor. And their followers are going to be like, did you see what happened in New York? They elected a goddamn commie. Going to be a communist mayor of New York City, which means that there's going to be shit and garbage in the streets and buildings falling down, and no police, goddamn. And it's worked. It's an effective strategy. So this is the sound from this interview. And this is just listen.
This guy said that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu for crimes against human rights.
So would I.
If he came to visit New York City, this is what this guy said. This guy said he wants to replace police officers with social workers, Sean.
Nope.
If you need help because you need the NYPD, this guy says, no, we're going to send you a social worker instead. This is a disaster, maybe unbelievably worse than Chicago, worse than LA. New York City is on the cusp of electing the worst mayor that they have ever chose, Bill de Blasio. People are going to be wishing that he was the guy.
Right?
Disinformation.
Right? They are freaking the fuck out. They are freaking out.
Rudy Giuliani is the worst mayor that New York ever elected. So
preach.
In
hindsight. Yes, no doubt about it. But again,
when we voted for him, that he was going to turn out to be a fucking lunatic. We didn't. We thought that Rudy was going to be a good solution. Honestly,
exactly. He cleaned up this city. Times Square looked different. There's a lot of things that Rudy did, right? That were good for the city at the time. In hindsight, though, we know what the fuck happened to him. Think about the things that he said, right? So I'm going to play this one more time. It's quick. I just want to address something specifically.
This guy said that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu for crimes against human rights.
I would too.
If he came to visit New York City. This is what this guy said.
Yep.
This guy said he wants to replace police officers with social workers.
Okay, that right there is an example of disinformation. Okay, so that's never been the statement from Mamdani. Like we talked about earlier, he talked about changing policing so that law enforcement has resources to be able to respond to a mental health crisis, for example, or giving community support for people in crisis. That is a blatant example of disinformation. A blatant example.
John, if you need help because you need the NYPD, this guy says, no, we're going to send you a social worker instead.
Wow.
This is a disaster, maybe unbelievably worse than Chicago, worse than LA.
Wow.
New York City is on the cusp of electing the worst mayor that they have ever chose, Bill de Blasio. People are going to be wishing that he was the guy.
So again, the chyron says New York could soon have socialist radical mayor because he wants to make sure that we can guarantee rent freeze so that the busing around the city becomes free and affordable, so that the rich pay 1% to 2% more on their taxes every single year, so that they can change law enforcement so that law enforcement officials, it benefits both sides, by the way, people in crisis and those responding, so that law enforcement officials have the ability to respond to crises without it turning violent and having it escalate. Damn, that is so fucking radical. Holy shit. I know, right? Right, Gen X Deb? Not free bus transportation. You see what I mean? And again, I'm observing this from 100,000 feet, and I'm looking down and I'm seeing how the right they are in a free fall because they cannot land on a consistent message. They can't claim that they're being transparent when they're not being transparent when it comes to the coverage regarding Iran. They cannot claim that they're supporting law enforcement and thus crime prevention when exactly what Mayor Zohran Mamdani wants to do is make sure that we are addressing crime, but giving law enforcement officials the tools to do it properly. They are crumbling. They are crumbling. Question is, what are Democrats and the left going to do about it? Are you going to take advantage of it? Are you going to say freedom? The left stands for affordability, freedom, safety, accountability. We want to overfund law enforcement by providing them tools that they need to address crises differently without having it to be escalated. We want to make sure law enforcement is protected. We want to make sure our communities are safer. Let's own the fucking message. And I am so concerned and worried that they just won't.
How about the Chicago dog whistle that he threw out?
Of course. LA too. Of course. Yep. No doubt about it. All right. Got a little bit more. By the way, this is just a recap of you can align yourself with a political party. Again, you guys know me. I'm not a fan of the status quo. I want to challenge status quo Democrats. I think the Democratic Party has become weak and cowardless and feckless in inability to respond. And they have been the only party that have promoted any kind of advancement of human rights at all. Not gone nearly far enough, but that's what we have. So these are some issues, societal issues, and we can go through the list. Democracy. Universal health care. Democrats for, Republicans against. Affordable prescription drugs. Democrats for, Republicans against. Universal pre-K. Democrats for, Republicans against. Women's rights. Democrats for, Republicans against. Child tax credits. Democrats want to make them permanent. Republicans don't. Common sense gun reform. Democrats, independents, and even the majority of Republicans are for it. Elected Republicans, because they take money from the NRA, are against. Vaccination mandates. Hotly contested political issue. Democrats are for responsible approaches to public health. Republicans are against it. They're only against wearing masks when it applies to public health emergencies, but they're totally comfortable with ICE agents and law enforcement officials wearing masks. Okay. Minimum wage increases. Democrats are for. Republicans are against. Tax increases on the wealthy. Democrats are for. Republicans are against. Protecting the environment. EPA, for example, making sure that we're not drilling in Anwar, making sure that we're not violating the beautiful spaces of public land to hand it over to the highest bidder. Democrats are for protecting those spaces. Republicans are against. Family paid leave. Democrats are for. Republicans are against. Immigration reform. Democrats are for. Republicans are against. This is an issue that I've said before. Neither party wants to solve it because they know their corporate donors are getting rich in the back of slave labor, not having to pay on undocumented immigrants. So you want to address it, then you lock up corporations that hire undocumented people. So let's call it what it is. Neither party really wants to solve immigration. Tax breaks for the wealthy. Democrats are against. Republicans are for. Controlling a woman's body. Democrats are against. Republicans are for. And then easier access to firearms. Democrats are against. Republicans are for. So you can make up your own mind. You can decide. You can decide. But you can't come up here and claim that you care about these certain things when your party doesn't vote them. Or conversely, if you are opposed to something and your party says, well, that's completely fine, we're opposed to it too, ask yourself, what is it you're opposed to? Ask yourself if you truly care about human rights, if you truly care about a woman's rights to her body, because you don't. You're going to hide behind your Christian nationalism bullshit. Okay. Let's see. There's going to be 4 p.m. President participates in one big beautiful event. East Room pre-credentialed media plus a press briefing by Press Barbie. Banner day for propaganda in the White House. All right. This is from Newsweek. I'm still going to spend a little bit of time talking about the disinformation, misinformation engine. President Trump has taken fresh aim at 2 major media outlets, claiming that CNN and the New York Times may soon fire reporters involved in coverage of recent U.S. airstrikes on the Iranian nuclear sites. Trump has accused both outlets of spreading misinformation and failing to acknowledge what he calls a successful military operation. Trump wrote on social media, Lie Social, as we discussed, referencing unnamed reporters at CNN and the New York Times. He alleged that both outlets, quote, got it so wrong in the reports on the Iran strikes. Trump has consistently defended the strikes, saying they obliterated the nuclear facilities in Iran. accused the press of conducting continued witch hunts. His comments mirrored those of Hegseth at the briefing, who also said that no evidence of materials having been moved. Pentagon continues to review post-strike intelligence and mixed public and media assessments of the Pentagon's impact. All caps. Fake news reporters from CNN and the New York Times should be fired immediately. Bad people with evil intentions. This is full-blown. They're in triage. They are trying to fix this. They are way the fuck out over their skis, and there's nobody competent to be able to address any of this. Nobody. They've got no one other than Triple K Caroline, who is way out of her breath and the ability to navigate through this. She will just double down on the lies. And I'll be watching. Will she be wearing her cross today? Will she be wearing her cross today? We'll see, I guess. Okay, let me get back to this. All right, I'm going to play this little soundbite, and you guys can tell me what you think of this. Now, personally, I don't know if it's something that I would laugh about, but this is J.D. Vance discussing a conversation he had recently with the president in the Oval Office. Hold on.
He puts the foreign leader on.
Hold on.
President looks over at me, puts the foreign leader on mute and says, "This is not going very well," and he presses the red button. and my eyes get really big, and I'm like, "Mr. President, you know what just happened?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Nuclear, nuclear." And 2 minutes later, a guy walks in with a Diet Coke, and he looks back at me and he says, "It wasn't nuclear, it's just the Diet Coke button."
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when you have a megalomaniac, narcissist, fucking idiot joking about the button. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's funny at all.
No one likes him.
Nope.
No one has picked him.
Nope. Nobody's picked him. All right, I've got a few more things that I want to get to. I played that. I discussed that. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Don't forget, we are crowdfunded here. If you want to support the channel, you can do so. All of my various things where you can, with a $sign thing, I'm trying to avoid saying it. It's an experiment today. It's all facts still matter. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Don't forget, there's a gifting goal today. Don't forget, we are part of the Community Fest. Please consider doing that. If you've not yet gifted today, would appreciate if you wouldn't mind doing that. Never expected, always appreciated. And we are marching towards we hit our subscriber level, so if we can keep our subscriber count where it is now, going into tomorrow, we will do another subscriber giveaway. So if you're subscribed here or over at FactsStillMatter.site, you'll be entered into our wheel spinning contest and some merch that we could be coming your way. So please consider doing that. So thank you for helping us hit our sub goal and our gifting goal. We appreciate you. Oh, and by the way, we are also streaming on YouTube. We are recently created an account on Twitch, on Substack. So eventually, we're going to be simulcasting on all these various platforms. So if you've not yet, or I should ask, would you please consider subscribing to Substack, Blue Sky, and also on Twitch? No content there yet on Substack and on Twitch, but as we build our content, it would be really beneficial for you guys to be there, sort of like waiting for us, so to speak. But there you go. Okay. Let me see. Did I cover this one? Okay, this is the NATO meeting yesterday. Is this the one I wanted to play? Yes.
This morning, President Trump defending his strikes against Iran, insisting their nuclear sites have been completely destroyed.
I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast.
I believe.
But sources tell us a preliminary Pentagon report indicates at least 2 of the Iranian nuclear facilities targeted were not completely destroyed, and that Iran's nuclear program was only set back by a few months. Trump has been adamant that Iran won't be able to rebuild anytime soon, saying this morning it could take decades.
They're not going to be building bombs for a long time.
But the classified preliminary report from the Defense Intelligence Agency and U.S. Central Command indicates Iran's centrifuges remain intact. And though the bombing sealed off the entrances to 2 of the nation's nuclear facilities, they did not destroy their underground structures. These new satellite images showing the craters left behind after those strikes. One source familiar with the initial intelligence says much of the enriched uranium was not destroyed because it was moved before the U.S. struck. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has warned nearly 900 pounds of near weapons-grade uranium is unaccounted for. While Trump insists the U.S. attack was an overwhelming success, he concedes the intelligence gathered so far is just preliminary.
The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct.
What? Oh my God. Okay. Let's unpack a second. Okay. Sit down. Let me spin you a yarn. So the president, when pressed at the NATO summit, says in response to the fact that there's been all this kerfuffle. Did I just literally say kerfuffle? I did. All this kerfuffle about the timing and what information was released. He himself, listen to that again. This is telling.
Could have been very.
Hold on.
It's very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But
what? The intelligence says it could have been very severe. My guy, you and your team have been going out there saying obliterated, decimated, destroyed. And now you're saying this?
Because it was moved before the U.S. struck. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has warned nearly 900 pounds of near weapons-grade uranium is unaccounted for. While Trump insists the U.S. attack was an overwhelming success, he concedes the intelligence gathered so far is just preliminary.
the intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take the we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers eager for answers after a briefing on the strikes was delayed until Friday.
What are they afraid of?
But Senate leadership and members of the Senate...
Don't you worry, friends. Chuck Schumer's going to write a strongly worded letter. He might write 2, maybe 3. He's going to get his best pen out, and he's going to write another strongly worded letter. So democracy is safe. Just want you to know. I'm sorry. One more time. Listen to the sound.
...was moved before the U.S. struck.
One more time.
And the International Atomic Energy Agency has warned nearly 900 pounds of near weapons-grade uranium is unaccounted for. While Trump insists the U.S. attack was an overwhelming success, he concedes the intelligence gathered so far is just preliminary.
The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take the we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration.
On Cap.
It's painful.
The decoder ring just broke again. I got it fixed. I sent it back through the Trump mail service. Sorry, to the Trump mail service, and I got it back recently. Okay, explain it to me. How is it that you guess the preliminary report could be right, that the damage wasn't as severe as you said, but then in the same sentence you say the damage was so severe that it obliterated. And then the issue with trucks being moved, again, he's preliminary reports. The cars and small trucks at the site were those of concrete workers trying to cover up the top of the shafts. Hey now. Nothing was taken out of the facility. Would take too long, too dangerous, and very heavy and hard to move. Do you see why we spend time trying to navigate this shit? This makes my brain like, but this is why this shit is so important. So we've got the president who's the first one to make the statement. He goes out within hours after it, obliterated, decimated, end of the program. Pete Hegseth and his team doubles and triples down on it. We get the report that comes out from the BDA, the Battle Damage Assessment, to the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the intelligence wing of the Pentagon, that says, no, the preliminary reports say it wasn't as bad as you guys have said, and it may only be months. Preliminary. Now, we might learn over time that, yes, in fact, the facilities were done. We don't know that. That's the whole point. So now he himself, the president, has been telling the world that it's obliterated. And in that statement you just heard, he's like, yeah, well, I guess they said it wasn't that bad. Okay. Well, I believe it's bad. So what is it? What is it? Somebody fucking navigate this. The problem when you have an idiot that sits behind the Resolute desk who doesn't know shit, who's so fucking stupid, all he cares about is who's going to stroke his D next. Can't even answer an honest question. That was I forgot about that. I listened to that earlier. I didn't even think about that sound. That's just crazy. Come on, y'all. Seriously. Be objective. Just a little bit objective. Don't you want the truth? TJ, Paul, others. Don't you guys want the truth? Don't you want to know what happened? Do you care that there's more confidential material being leaked from the Pentagon? Do you care? Do you give a shit? Tom 20231, do you want to come up and talk about it? Do you care? Like, did you hear about the conversation between Trump and Jasmine Crockett? I did not.
Oh, it was awesome.
They actually had a conversation?
No, it was during testimony on a committee, and Jasmine got in a burn that needs to be read aloud. It was awesome.
If somebody has that, they want to send it to me, I will gladly read it. Okay, a few more things to play here. I mean, can we just be honest about this shit? Can we just be honest that nobody fucking knows? That's why you have a preliminary report. The preliminary report has said what it said. Have you noticed though that nobody is disavowing the report in and of itself? Nobody is saying the report doesn't exist. They're only saying it's preliminary. So if it's preliminary and you don't yet have all the information, then why would you say it's obliterated? Xavier, how are you this morning?
Fine, my brother. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's on your mind today?
Well, you know I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm a senior executive in the DSCC in the United States Senate. Like you said, the nightmare that we're all experiencing, and we can see what's sort of digesting now what Steve Bannon said 4 months ago, flood the zone, and that is exactly what they're doing. He's flooding the zone with every 5 minutes with something just bizarre as anyone can imagine. Stephen King even said he couldn't write a horror movie equivalent to what we're experiencing at this present time, or will be experiencing.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, this is by design. This is what autocracy looks like.
I agree, my friend. And here you have Mitch McConnell. I got to hear what Cory Booker said today. Mitch McConnell saying, "Yeah, just pass the bill. We don't care who it hurts. Just pass it." I don't know what's going on. And every year, Republican governors have to go to federal court to explain their unfair, unethical voting tactics to make it arduous for anyone to vote who's just not like them. This
I know.
This crap needs to stop. And I'm working my hardest to make it to bring it to a 50-50 minimum, but I don't know what's going to happen in this next election. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'd like to think that the election for the primary in New York for Zohran Mamdani would be a model that we can start to point to, so that the Democratic machine can finally start listening to progressive voices within their party, where addressing the needs of what voters actually want. That might help. That's
true. Now, I've been on the House and Senate side for over 30 years, and I got to know and view computer systems and software and just a whole bunch of different applications in their infancy. Long story short, when Lockheed Martin bought a company that managed the CMS systems on both sides of the Capitol with glowing reviews and secure protocol and annual reports and meetings about their software, the benefits it has for Congress and has had for Congress. I tried to contact them a year ago and ask them, and they sort of didn't want to hear it. But if they can design a system secure like that, think about the voting apparatus they could do nationwide. You know what I'm saying? State to state, and secure that type of glitch that we're having in certain states. You sort of see what I'm saying?
I do. I just from a strategy perspective, what the status quo Democrats have not done is listen to the voices of their party. not bothered to listen to the things that the overwhelming majority of Americans want. Like, we got to stop talking about little things like little expansions to the ACA. We got to start talking about big policy shifts, because that's what Americans want, and looking to be led, right? Looking for leaders with voices that care about the needs of the working class, the working poor, as I like to say. And I think that's what we heard from Zoran Mamdani. So when you're in your conversations with Democratic leadership in the House and Senate, just remind them that people are out here saying, these are the things that we want. Are you going to fight for us? Because if you're not going to fight for us, we'll find somebody else who will.
Well, that's true, but we do get the message out, and at least I do. I mean, I've been given accolades and awards for being a tough fighter, but long story short, the ACA, if we look at that went through a minefield, and it's still going through a minefield today. But like I tell Republican governors, their constituents and their citizens in their states, although they just hate it because of a reason of color, their people are benefiting from it, and that's another problem. Now, if we all know that no kid comes out. Now, I can bring up information here where I got custody of my daughter at 3 months old. She was full custody at 3 months old. Never been married, single, blah, blah, blah. But we got to figure out how to curb racism in America, because I got to experience, and I can bring it up for verification. My daughter wasn't born a racist, and people that she knows or deal with, even when she went to school with Christy Brinkley and Billy Joe's daughter, they weren't exposed to that type of environment. And until we could find out and hold accountable people who are altering the kids' natural rhythm of their minds and hearts, accountable for what they're doing, that's the only way we're going to curb this junk. Elon Musk's father came up this year with a video saying, "My son isn't a racist." Why isn't he? You had a diamond mine in South Africa, and you think when you came home and sat at the dinner table that you and your young son weren't talking about how the mistreatment of every inch and quarter mile of that diamond mine those Afrikaners were going down into, and how ugly that deplorable apartheid was? Come on, man, this stuff got to start to.
I know. Hatred. I mean, these are all hatred. All the isms are taught by our children are not born that way. They're taught those kinds of things. I appreciate you saying that, Xavier. Thank you for jumping in today. Please come back and we can talk again. Okay? I appreciate you being here. You have a good day, friend.
Brother, have a good day.
You too. See you later. All right, thank you, Navy vet. Couple things. There's some breaking news, and I saw this come down. Thank you, Olive. I saw it come down as well. There's some sad breaking news that the SCOTUS, and we'll make this, we'll go through this because it's literally just coming down. Breaking the Supreme Court rules 6-3, again, along ideological lines, in favor of South Carolina, allowing the state to ban Planned Parenthood from receiving Medicaid funds and taxpayer dollars. I'm shaking my head because I just, every single day we live here, we live in a place where people feel like it's just okay to just take away the rights of over half of our population. States can cut off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood, the Supreme Court rules. A divided Supreme Court allowed states to cut off Medicaid money to Planned Parenthood in a ruling handed down Thursday amid a wider Republican-backed push to defund the country's biggest abortion provider. The 6-3 opinion, it comes in a case that wasn't directly about abortion. It's instead about Medicaid funding for other healthcare services Planned Parenthood provides, like contraception, cancer screenings, and pregnancy testing. The ruling, authored by Justice Gorsuch and joined by the rest of the court's conservatives, could have broader implications for Medicaid patients because it blocks them from suing to make sure that they can visit the provider they choose. Public health care money generally can't be used to pay for abortions. That's called that's not the Hatch Act. There's already legislation that federal taxpayer dollars cannot be used for abortion services. I forget what that is. We can find it. Anyway, Public health care money can't generally be used to pay for abortions. The Hyde Amendment, exactly. The Hyde Amendment. Thank you, God. Thank you, Mother Hen. Appreciate that. The Hyde Amendment already clarifies that federal taxpayer dollars cannot be used to fund abortion specifically. So I think they're going to try to use other healthcare services provided by Planned Parenthood. I don't know, cancer screenings might be a little important, or contraception, that might be a little bit important. Apparently not, though. Public healthcare money generally can't be used to pay for abortions. Medicaid patients go to Planned Parenthood for other needs, in part because it can be tough to find a doctor who takes the publicly funded insurance, the organization has said. South Carolina Republican governor says no taxpayer money should go to the organization. The budget bill backed by President Trump and Congress would also cut Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood. That could force the closure of about 200 centers, most of them in states where abortion is already legal, the organization has said. Governor Henry McMaster first moved to cut off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood in 2018, but was blocked in court after a lawsuit from a patient named Julie Edwards. Edwards wanted to keep going there for birth control because her diabetes makes pregnancy potentially dangerous. So she sued over a provision in Medicaid law that allows patients to choose their own qualified provider. South Carolina, though, argued that patients shouldn't be able to file those lawsuits. The state pointed to lower courts that have been swayed by similar arguments and allowed states such as Texas to block Medicaid funding from Planned Parenthood. So women in America are property, and you're incubators, and you do not have rights, and you cannot seek care, whether it be for reproductive health care or not. You can't go see a doctor at Planned Parenthood with Medicaid if you want to just have a cancer screening, pap smear, whatever it might be. Okay. Good to know. The party of pro-life. It's good to know. The party who cares about the rights of individuals. It's good to know. The party who cares about children. That's good to know. So we found the sound. Thank you, Navy vet. We found the sound of what Jasmine Crockett and her little back and forth with Mr. Trump. Here it is.
Gentleman yields. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much. It's interesting that we're being accused of wanting all kinds of criminals to be on the streets, or that we don't believe that people should show up to their meetings and appointments. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are actually being grabbed as they are going in for their appointments. In fact, we know that one of the candidates that was recently running in this mayoral, he ended up being arrested because he decided that he was actually going to escort people that are actually showing up to their meetings. Or we know that the Pope, yes, the Pope himself decided that the church may need to have people that are going to escort people as they're going into their meetings, because the reality is that what they are claiming what they want to do versus what they're actually doing, the actions don't match up. And while we are supposed to be talking about visas, somehow we continue to cherry pick and talk about one criminal act and another criminal act. And it is so very interesting to me that, yes, we will say people are xenophobic, because when you start to decide that just because somebody came from another country, they are automatically some kind of criminal, that does sound kind of xenophobic to me, because you are using a paintbrush to paint an entire group of people where the vast majority of them are coming here because they are actually seeking a better life. But let me get to what this hearing is supposed to be about. The idea that Trump and my Republican colleagues want to restore integrity and security in the visa process is actually a joke. Let me be clear. Integrity is not snatching lawful visa holders off the streets and throwing them into unmarked vans. Integrity is not revoking visas based on social media posts that hurt somebody's little feelings because kids decide that they want to go after Trump or this administration. We have a thing called free speech in this country. And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the first lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here. Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing with this reconciliation process. The travel bans and revoking visas jeopardizes our national security. It threatens our communities, our higher education, and our economy. Visas like the largely vetted J visas for higher education and M visas for trade, training, attract the next innovators, medical providers, researchers, and educators that we need to build on American success. I'm not gonna mess up your name, so I'm not doing that. But I'm with you, okay? In your experience, do individuals on J or M visas typically improve or impair our economy?
They generally improve the economy, and I can give a brief example. My wife is a very successful woman. She makes a ton of money, which I'm grateful for. And the reason why we're able to do that while having 3 children is because of the au pair visa, somebody who is here on a J, who is here and able to supply this for us. But I also want to defend Melania real quick. Not everybody could marry Donald Trump, and I think that's quite an achievement.
Okay.
Now, did I oversell?
Somebody said, please protect that woman. Yes, please protect Jasmine Crockett, please. Yes, please. Go ahead, Obi.
Did I oversell the burn factor?
Oh, no. The Nobel Peace Prize piece was exceptionally burn-worthy. That was the best part.
That was gold medal Olympic level and so polite, right?
So polite, which makes it so savage. Wow.
Yeah.
Malik.
Also,
would you like to come and have a conversation?
Jasmine Crockett, consistently for the win.
Consistently. Okay. So, okay. I don't even know what to say after that. Another story I wanted to cover too that we haven't talked about yet. I meant to get this yesterday. We just ran out of time. We know that Joni Ernst made that famous, quote about everybody's going to die. And then she doubled down on that statement from a cemetery, no less. Not even with literally no self-awareness or just mocking people. Well, Mitch McConnell has joined the party now. U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell reportedly said in a closed-door meeting that Americans concerned about spending cuts to Medicaid would get over it if the one big beautiful bill endorsed by President Trump advanced in the Senate. But McConnell's spokesperson said he was not speaking generally about the federal health insurance program. McConnell, according to a June 24th report from Punchbowl News, responded to comments about pushback Republican lawmakers may receive from voters if they moved to pass Medicaid cuts. Quote, I know a lot of us are hearing from people back home about Medicaid. McConnell was then quoted as saying, but they'll get over it. Also during the closed-door meeting, McConnell reportedly said, failure isn't an option when he replied to concerns about passing the spending cuts. In a statement, McConnell's spokesperson said the senator, quote, was speaking about the people who are abusing Medicaid, the able-bodied Americans who should be working, and the need to withstand Democrats' scare tactics when it comes to Medicaid. Senator McConnell was urging his fellow members to highlight that message to our constituents and remind them that we should be all against waste, fraud, and abuse while working to protect our rural hospitals and have safety nets in place for people that need it. Rep. Morgan McGarvey, a Democrat from Louisville, referenced McConnell's comments when he said during a House Budget Committee hearing on Medicaid, quote, I don't think people in my state are just going to get over it. And then we learned that the parliamentarian has stepped in and said, look at the Medicaid cuts. By the way, the Medicaid cuts that you've been telling people are not in the bill, you can't have in the bill. They're in the bill. I know you told people they're not in the bill, but they're in the bill. They're in the bill. And meanwhile, I'm doing my job as a parliamentarian, and I'm letting you know that the Medicaid cuts that you told people aren't in the bill, that are in the bill, you can't have in the bill. Disinformation, propaganda. Disinformation from Mike Johnson when he stands there and tells his voters that we're not going to cut Medicaid. Well, it's disinformation because it's a lie, because it's in the fucking bill. And then it's misinformation when people in the MAGAverse say, well, this is not in the bill. Mike Johnson told us it's not in the bill. So they're believing the lie. So therefore, it's misinformation. And guess what, MAGA? You red hat wearers, guess what? You guys have been duped. You've been duped again. You've been lied to, and you believed the lie. And guess what? You're now a victim. You're now a victim. You're now a victim. Malik, you're unable to come up and talk because you're for some reason your invitations are turned off. Why are you here? Why are you here? So why don't you just leave? Okay. Yeah, just leave. Bye-bye. So what do we learn today? We've learned that the Supreme Court and conservatives in America don't give a fuck about anything but their pockets and their Christian nationalism rhetoric. Don't care about women, don't care about any marginalized community, don't care about the LGBTQIA community in particular, especially the trans community. As we celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Obergefell decision, which granted same-sex couples the right to marry with legal protection under the law. But that's not good enough. The fact that we have a law that says that you can marry whomever the fuck you love, that makes conservatives really unhappy in their pants. They're all a little bit angry. They got some fifis about that. So they're going to do everything they can to try to take that right away as well, no matter what it is. Even though there's laws. States' rights. Individual states did the same thing. I'm happy to say that Vermont was one of the first states in America to grant civil union protections. Happy to say that. But here we are. Conservatives are always the fucking problem. Always. What have I said a million times, guys? Let's blur the lines. Let's get rid of the D. Let's get rid of the R. Let's get rid of the red. Let's get rid of the blue. You are either for progress, thus a progressive, or regress, thus a conservative. Conservatives are always the fucking problem. Always have been, always will be. I don't want to hear your bullshit that you're fiscally conservative, socially liberal. No, you're conservative. I don't want to hear any of that rhetoric. I don't want to hear any of that fucking nonsense. You're sitting here celebrating women who are on Medicaid because you don't support raising the minimum wage. You want to continue to provide tax cuts for the rich. So you don't support women who are on Medicaid the ability to go get a fucking cancer screening, you horrible motherfuckers. You can use the protection of your book and your fucking Sky Daddy and your faith to say, well, no, we just don't want to make sure. We want to make sure undocumented ain't getting abortions, in the 10th month. We want to make sure that ain't happening. First of all, that ain't happening. But what the Supreme Court ruling did today is deny people on Medicaid the ability to get a cancer screening. A fucking cancer screening. Let me say that again. A cancer screening. You have been lied to by your party. They've told you that Medicaid cuts are not in the bill. We know that they are. I've been telling you that for weeks. Do you want to know why? Because I read the motherfucker. Not the whole thing, but just the sections that addressed it, because I pay attention to this shit. I know the government committee who has oversight over it were told to cut billions of dollars in their budget. And guess what? Guess where it was going to come from? Fucking Medicaid. Your same party, the people that claim that you're looking out for the middle class, you same mouth-breathing fucking potatoes who couldn't fight your way out of a wet bag in your alphaness, are cheering on the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau agency being cut. Thankfully, the parliamentarian stepped in and said you can't do that either. Why? Oh, I know why. So you can give the billionaires in our country who laugh at you and your pathetic lives because you maxed out in middle school. We fooled those guys again. We con them again. We're going to tell them that the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau has waste, fraud, and abuse because we want to make sure that we can maximize those predatory lending institutions and those ridiculous bank fees. Here you are again. Here we are once again. You don't believe the fake news, and it's your own people that are saying, hey, you probably jumped the gun a little bit. The preliminary reports are that these facilities in Iran were not decimated, obliterated, and destroyed. And even your idiot mouth-breathing fucking president dipshit said the exact same thing. And here you are. Once again, caught with your pants down. What the hell is the matter with you people? You're just
I don't want
dumb.
that image in my head.
I know. I don't either, but
I bleach. I need eye bleach stat.
Good morning,
Morning,
Doctor.
Steve.
Good to see you back here. How are you?
Oh, I'm here. I've been listening in for a bit. I heard the portion about the Supreme Court decision. That's really disappointing. But I think it does highlight something that I kind of wanted to touch on. And one of the more recent executive orders that were passed down the what feels like freaking fire hose kind of touches on it as well. Republicans, or at least MAGA, at this point have taken an interesting strategy, well, terrible strategy, of instead of directly, passing policy or changing things, basically making rules that tie our hands in the medical field. So like now, state funding for Planned Parenthood being cut in potentially in red states and stopping us from being able to give cancer screenings to needy people, as well as other, maternal health and needed services outside of the things that, the conservatives object to, which is almost always AB care. Is just a tragedy because that's going to increase maternal mortality, and then they're just going to thumb their nose at it. And it's
Dr.
not
Michael, what's by the way, what states what states in our country have the highest instances of maternal mortality?
Oh, it's always the red states. I mean, gosh, I live in Oklahoma to sort of out myself, and so
Exactly.
I'm a blue dot in a red pool.
Exactly. We know that life expectancy is lower in those states. Maternal mortality and infant mortality rates are higher. And what did they do? They just made it even worse.
Yeah. Well,
and they're celebrating it. They're celebrating it.
And I'm afraid that my next bit of news for you is only going to make
Adriana Smith. Thank you, Lizzie.
Yeah. Gosh, we're never going to live that down. That's a travesty.
Absolutely.
I'm
There's
still
no other way to describe
horrified.
it than that. Me too.
But
but Kat Kamek is okay, right, Lizzie? Exactly.
So, another decision that the Trump administration has made that's going to more aggressively affect red states and underserved areas is they put down an executive order to change or put restrictions on, I guess I should say, public service loan forgiveness, which affects, a majority of physicians and I'm sure other fields. I'm just only speaking on healthcare personally. But their restrictions, if you go to the fact sheet for them, they frame it as they don't want to support radical ideologies. Well, once they kind of dial it in, they basically say if you're aiding or abetting someone who's violating federal immigration laws, if you're giving treatment to someone under the age of 18, treatment, just quote unquote treatment for transgender care, or if you're engaging in a pattern of abetting and aiding illegal discrimination, or engaging in a pattern of violating tort law, which may include being a public nuisance, then they could revoke your status as someone who is receiving public loan forgiveness, which public loan forgiveness, if you don't know about it, for us, means that I have to, for 10 years, work for an underserved area for a nonprofit, generally at lower pay, essentially giving my service to a community that needs it. Lots of people sign up for it. They go to like underserved areas, community hospitals, critical access places, and I like that. ERs, things like that. And if you do it for 10 years while paying on your loans, because you have to continue paying on your loans during that time, then the remainder of the balance at the end of the 10 years is supposed to be forgiven. And what they're trying to do is find a way to loophole these people who are already in the program and snag it from them, because how is an ER doctor going to know if someone comes in who's dying is an illegal immigrant immediately?
They shouldn't.
They're not going to say, hey, by the way, show me your green card. I know your leg's been chopped off, but give me a minute. Got to make sure. And that's just making hospitals and healthcare workers more, I mean, it sounds crappy, but more worried to be able to just give proper treatment to people on a regular basis, just like these not quite illegalizing AB care in some of these states. It's like, well, you've written the laws so vaguely that there is no way for me to safely intervene without somebody eventually coming back, reviewing the case and saying, oh, you could have saved them, you know, if you look right here.
Anybody. It could be, you're right, it could have been anybody.
It's just a gross strategy of finding a way to, we're totally not targeting these demographics because we don't have anything against them except they can't receive medical care. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, like,
right. I know.
It's
well,
not
Dr. Michael, thanks for jumping in today. I know. I appreciate you jumping in as always. Thanks for this, the reminder about what it is that we're up here fighting for. I appreciate you, friend. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely, man. Have a good day. Keep at it.
You too. You got it. See you later. This was just a little back and forth from Jasmine Crockett and the president. Mr. President posted this last night, 8:13 p.m. I have an idea for the Democrats to bring them back into play. After years of being left out in the cold, including suffering one of the greatest losses in history, the 2024 presidential election, the Democrats should nominate low IQ candidate Jasmine Crockett for president, and AOC plus 3 should be respectively vice president and 3 high-level members of the cabinet. Added together with our future communist mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, and our country is really screwed, in all caps. To which Jasmine replied, thanks for your vote of confidence, I guess. Unlike you, I'd actually be focused on the American people, the issues they're facing, making sure folks have health care, and consulting with Congress before dropping bombs on another country. Once again, you've got very big problems to deal with, and somehow you're still focused on me. Oh, yeah. That's some shade. She's fucking great. I love her. I love her. Excuse me. All right. A couple more things, friends. And then we'll wrap for the day. Just a reminder, Felicia and I are going to be debating tonight. We've been talking about this for a while. I'm not exactly sure what time, but it'll be Facts After Dark for sure. It's probably going to be 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere around there, but we'll do that tonight, and I'll let you guys know. We'll do a promo video. I'll be joining her on her account, so that'll be, like I said, sometime tonight around 9. And then tomorrow, oh, thank you, Eve. It's a good call. We're marching towards, again, we're marching towards 400 subscribers. We're going to do the wheel spin like live and in person if we get there. We're getting there, friends. So another few subscribers today. Thank you all in advance. Real quickly, I want to thank a few people who've helped support our cause today. Remember, guys, we are crowdfunded around here, and we're trying to help out our community members as much as possible. So if you got a buck you can spare, I want to thank Stephanie. I want to thank Chad. I want to thank Heather. You guys are great. Appreciate your contributions today. Also wanted to thank also Pedro and Jay. I thanked you earlier. Thank you, guys. If you want to support the channel, you can do so. The various things that you do with the $sign things, they're all facts still matter, whether it be PP, CA, or VE. Cool. Thank you. All right. Let me get to this. Where did it go? We're talking about we've intermixed a lot of these things because all these things that are being done, whether it be, the no new wars and then bringing us into a potential war. Thank you for subbing on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. In advance, thank you for anybody who gives, who donates a super chat. I might miss those, and thank you for your support over there. And just as a reminder, we are now on Twitch, also on Substack, Blue Sky. We're everywhere. You're gonna get sick of me, but subscribe to all those things. Thank you. We've been talking about how a lot of people that are strong voices, like Dave Smith, we played the sound about how he's done, and then Bannon being critical, Tucker Carlson being critical, MTG being critical, all these voices that we've gotten to know on the right who've been, sniffing the taint. One that I hadn't heard from, but I'd heard was sort of on the fence about their support, is Candace Owens. Candace has now gone on the record with her response to all the things that are happening in the Trump administration. She was being interviewed by Piers Morgan, and this is what she had to say.
Are you done with Donald Trump, or could you see a way that you would end up perhaps voting for him? Oh, you can't run again, obviously, but would you support him publicly again?
I want to be clear. I don't regret voting for Donald Trump above Kamala. I think he was the better candidate, certainly a better candidate above Joe Biden. But what I will say is that he's been a chronic disappointment. Woo! And I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen and it is happening. But I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for.
If it turns out that his instincts were right, that by doing what he did, it brings Iran to the negotiating table and they do a deal on their nuclear plans, would you admit that you were wrong in that circumstance?
Yeah. I will always admit when I'm wrong. Anybody that listens to my podcast knows that. It just so happens to be that, especially if I come on to the Piers Morgan show and I make some predictions, that it ends up that I'm right. So I'm feeling lucky, but I will of course admit I'm wrong if that is the result.
Sabrina, you just asked the question that I would ask. Would she have been embarrassed and corrected herself if Kamala Harris had won the presidency and she had done things that improved the lives of everyday Americans? Would she have admitted she was wrong then? No, you two-faced snake. But the quote, President Trump has been a chronic disappointment. And then there's somebody who responded to that statement, Trump forever, FR forever, said, I used to listen to her show. She's become a chronic disappointment. So she's made MAGA angry, referring to Donald Trump as a chronic disappointment. Now, I've talked about this before, and this is only my opinion. I don't know if this has any legs, but the more and more people that do these kinds of things, in my opinion, potentially can give more elected members of Congress, in particular in the Senate, cover for articles of impeachment. Because if you start to see, and we already know that his approval rating is the lowest it's ever been. There's never been a president who's had a lower approval rating than Donald Trump on both terms. So he's breaking records bigly. Then they're going to start to see that, maybe the endorsement that we've needed in the past from Donald Trump to win our election to appeal to the MAGA base just ain't what it once was, right? So maybe they grow a spine. Some of them, I doubt it, but maybe some of them will grow a spine and realize that, he's not as popular as he once was. Well, he's never been popular, but he's not nearly as strong, or the Trump endorsement no longer means what it once did. So who knows? The more people that come out the more people that come out like Candace Owens, again, the two-faced snake that she is, who knows? Who knows? All right, I've got a couple more things here. I played that one for you. I played that one for you. I played that one. Oh, this is good. Again, we're speaking about Medicaid. Now that we know this, the parliamentarian has said you cannot be just cutting funding to Medicaid. You can't do this. It's not going to happen. You can't do it. So they rooted from the bill. So this is a Kentucky representative. His name is Representative Garvey, representing the state of Texas. And he's laying this out. Okay. He's laying this out, the impact of these kinds of cuts and what they would do to rural healthcare in particular. He represents a red state. But so Kentucky, I know we have members of our mod team, Legend. Kentucky, I don't know if this guy's your rep, Legend, but this is great. This is what he had to say.
You live in Fleming County, Kentucky. Right now, you can go to the Flemingsburg Hospital, right there in Flemingsburg. If it closes, you have to go to the St. Clair Hospital in the county over. Now, Google Maps tells me that's 27 miles and 35 minutes. But guess what? That hospital is also on the list to be closed. So if you're living in a place in Kentucky right now, it's already lacking for medical care. Picture it. It's your parent who has a stroke. It's your spouse who has a heart attack. It's your wife who goes into labor prematurely. What are you going to do when minutes matter? And because of this bill, we are closing 35 hospitals. Already in my state, 41 counties out of 120 don't have a hospital. 72 counties don't have an OBGYN. 48 counties don't have a pediatrician. You're getting rid of 20,000 healthcare jobs and 35 hospitals.
So that's bad enough. Now we know that that has been a plan for a very, very long time about cutting funding for rural hospitals. Now, as we just found out recently, because the Supreme Court has now sided with South Carolina, that Medicaid dollars can no longer support Planned Parenthood, which provides services beyond just reproductive health care. So women in Kentucky, when these hospitals are already being closed and OBGYN facilities have been closed, now if you're on Medicaid, because you live in a state that is poor, now if you're on Medicaid, you can't even go seek care for, your annual exams or things like that, or mammograms or pap smears, cancer screenings. You can't do that because you can't go to a Planned Parenthood. So if you don't have a hospital, you don't have an OBGYN clinic, you don't have Planned Parenthood, where the fuck are women supposed to go for health care? Where? I'm asking the question. I'm trying to be objective here. Where are you supposed to go? We already know that reproductive health care in the southeast of the U.S. is like a desert. So where are you supposed to go? So if it's a states' rights issue, and the voters of Kentucky say, we demand federal support, we demand that we fund rural hospitals, isn't that a states' rights issue? Shouldn't they be able to make that determination? Why is it then that conservatives being always the problem, why is it that conservatives want to change the rules for how you can get a ballot? I think it's 27 states, it might even be more than that, 27 or 28 states in our country don't even provide the ability for voter endorsed ballot measures, meaning that doesn't even matter if you get an overwhelming amount of citizens to sign a petition. Their constitutions don't allow citizens introduced ballot initiatives, which is fucked up. So hospitals, dozens of hospitals, rural hospitals in Kentucky, one of the poorest states in America, represented by Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell has said people who lose Medicaid coverage will just get over it. Where are women supposed to go for health care? Where? Dark Veda, do you need a hug? Do you want to join our throuple, Dark Veda? Do you want to? You can massage my feet. Buckle up. Where are women supposed to go for health care? Seriously, where? Where are they supposed to go? Should they just not get care? So should we just allow you, again, red states already have the highest incidences of maternal mortality and infant mortality. Where are they supposed to go? What doctor? What doctor are they supposed to go to? If you're closing rural hospitals and you're closing OBGYN clinics, and now you can't use Medicaid dollars to go to Planned Parenthood to not even get reproductive health care, just care. Where do they go? The answer is nowhere in their state. They can't go anywhere. Seriously, Medicaid is covered by all doctors. You haven't been here a very long time. The problem is, let me try to explain that. I'll speak slowly, Lone, okay? As the gentleman from Kentucky just pointed out, rural hospitals in Kentucky are being closed because of cuts from the federal government not supporting rural hospitals. Okay? Again, I'm speaking slowly for you. Now, the Supreme Court has just ruled today that Medicaid cannot be used in Planned Parenthood. And Planned Parenthood, by the way, doesn't just provide reproductive health care. They also do screenings. They also do exams. They do pap smears. They do cancer screenings, mammograms, things like that. Those, if you're on Medicaid in Kentucky, you can't use Medicaid dollars because the Supreme Court just ruled that you can't use that either. So again, I ask you, Lone, I know you probably don't care about women. What are women supposed to do? You see? When you pay attention, when you pay attention to the things that are happening, it makes it difficult for you to defend your disdain towards women. But yes, but exactly, we fund abortions in Israel. Good point. $4 billion annually, $11 million a day. For your taxpayer dollars, Lone, your taxpayer dollars go to the Israeli government. You know what Israel has? They have free higher education, universal health care, and guess what? On-demand abortions. Yeah. We pay for that. We pay for that. But you're just happy with women dying in our country. You're just happy about that. I'm so sorry that every single day we have to share this information. I am so sorry. People literally sit here and celebrate this. People would just
go to church on
celebrate. Oh my God, I know.
Right? That's where they expect people to go. They want people to pray. Pray in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up first.
And most of this comes from Project 2025.
Christian
That's where
nationalism.
That's where a lot of this blueprint comes from. There was a hearing yesterday. The congressman's name is Subramaniam. He is questioning he's questioning the efficacy of Doge and the effectiveness. And he asks Mr. Burton, who is one of the people that is testifying, his connections to Project 2025, and just listen to what he has to say.
Before I get started on Doge, Mr. Burton, you were one of the co-authors of Project 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is this administration trying to implement Project 2025? Yes or no?
In some respects, yes.
Okay, let's listen to that again.
Project 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is this administration trying to implement Project 2025? Yes or no?
In some respects, yes.
One more time.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And is this administration trying to implement Project 2025? Yes or no?
In some respects, yes.
Cool. Okay. So then there's just a reminder from the campaign trail when Mr. Trump was out trying to defend his connections to Project 2025.
Anybody else?
And this is what he had to say.
I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everyone. I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2020. No, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. No, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025.
Disinformation.
Okay. Yep. Here we in just one more time.
Before I get started on Doge, Mr. Burton, you were one of the co-authors of Project 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is this administration trying to implement Project 2025? Yes or no?
In some respects, yes.
Okay. So then here's our little game, friends, we played yesterday. With what you heard from Mr. Trump in the debate that he had with Kamala regarding Project 2025, was that disinformation, misinformation, or more information is needed? Disinformation, misinformation, or more information is needed? Which one is it? Disinformation. Exactly right. It's disinformation. It's disinformation because it's a known lie. It's disinformation because you know the truth and you're going to tell people otherwise. It becomes misinformation when see no crime, hear no truth, speak no facts the Red Hat Club repeats it, then it's misinformation. You heard it.
And just
You
to
heard it.
correct Trump, he left with a net negative 2.9 million jobs lost after his first year.
Correct. Look, we're going to talk about this shit every day, every fucking day. We're up here doing this because it's really important, because the right is going to do everything they can to try to erase history. I've never stopped paying attention to Project 2025 because I knew it was going to be the blueprint. I knew it. I knew it was going to be the blueprint. And here it is. We've got it. We've got people in the cabinet, Russ Vought and others, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, and others who are already connected to it. And this guy says, yeah, but for the most part, yeah, we're using Project 2025. And then Donald Trump denying it. Be objective. Form your own opinions. Obi, final thoughts today?
Well, I would like to be able to vote for Jasmine Crockett when she decides to run for president someday. I think that would be fucking awesome. Melania Trump is not a genius, nor has contributed nothing to the betterment of society. These rulings by the conservative Supreme Court will also target MAGA. They're about to find out. And I'm not going to reach out or help them. If you want to do something, please donate money to Planned Parenthood. It appears that the only way we're going to be able to stand up against this is to do that. And I would like to say that Planned Parenthood doesn't just provide medical services for women. They provide medical services for men as well.
They do.
When I had no money and moved and transitioned to the Navy from North Carolina to the reserves as I attended Brandeis University, I had to go to Planned Parenthood to find out where I could find a doctor or services that could help me because I couldn't afford medical insurance. And Planned Parenthood did that for me, right? And so, let's do something. Let's show whatever it means. If you don't have dollars, show up at a Planned Parenthood clinic and ask what can be done, right? What can you do to help? And I think that's all we're asking is just saying to people, do something, right? Like, help wherever it is you can help, contribute whatever it is you can contribute, because we are not going to see the end of a conservative Supreme Court probably in my lifetime.
Agreed.
And for the sake of my daughter, for the sake of Steve's daughter, do something.
Well said, bro. Like we say a lot in this space, we care more about their children than they do. We care more about their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their non-binary children, their trans kids. We care more about them than they do. That's not hyperbolic, just because of the things that we stand for, that we defend. We want everybody to have a voice. We want everybody to have health care. We want everybody to have food, water, clean air. That's what we want. We care more than they do. So all the mouth breathers, the anti-democratic patriots that are in the chat today, and there's a lot of them out there, just keep that in mind. We care more about your kids than they do. We will defend your children more than you will. We will defend your children's rights to be whatever they want to be more than you do. We defend their right to have access to capital, unlike just the rich. We defend their ability to be able to live a life that's not just constantly fighting for table scraps. We care more about that than you do. We do. We care more about that than you do. You should think about that. As a reminder, friends, going to be debating with Felice probably sometime late evening, 9 p.m.-ish or something to that effect. I'll let you all know. We're going to rate our friend Danny. Speaking of somebody who defends democracy every single day. Do you know Danny? D-A-N-I. Danny, go find her. Thank you for being here, everybody. This is ugly. This shit is ugly. We're going to talk about it every single day. Men, as a reminder, protect your mental health. It's okay. There's the stigmas connected to it. Ignore the stigmas. If you ever need somebody just to kind of dump some shit on, feel free. My DMs are open. You can message me there. But remember, it shows strength and courage and guts. And it shows what a real man is if you can be aware of your own misgivings and your own misfortunes and the fact that you're not responsible for everything. You matter too. Love you all. Mods, you guys are great. Best mods on TikTok. Smartest.